Find out if my channel is doing it, and I think it is. Ecam live program is good. Yeah, it's over here. Nice. And we refresh this. Then we should be going. This is the Sunday service. It is 4 minutes to 2, but we're live anyway. Because that's how we roll, ladies and gentlemen. We have to be doing our live stuff as it is right now. It's always good. I'm just going to go into my little service system here. Make sure we're running okay. We seem to be running okay. Yeah, we're all right. We're doing well. The stream is off, and it's very good to have you here for this Sunday service. It's very important that we have the Sunday service up and running. Please click the like button, click the comment button, click the subscribe button, click whatever you have to click to make yourself and your presence known here. If there's a little buzz in the background, it's because I have a fan running, okay? Because it is super hot in the Midlands today. The Midlands has been hotter than the rest of the country, more or less. 2 days ago, we recorded 31 degrees here in Portlaoise, so it's totally possible to be up that kind of level. Yesterday, we spent the whole day in Duncannon. Is it called Duncannon Beach? We drove onto the beach with our Kia Sportage, and it was 25 degrees for the day. So we had a total difference. It felt completely different to have it running that day. I'm just going to hit the share button myself now because I should do that, of course. It is with a bit of a sad heart we start today, because today we are a friend of mine for many years, Albert Fitzgerald, has passed away. For me, unexpectedly. I haven't seen him in a very long time, the last couple of years, and I didn't know what was after happening, but I'm still not sure what's after happening, but I know he's gone anyway. But it's an unfortunate thing that happens. Life is the way life is, and that's what goes down at times. But, you know, Albert was a guy who gave plenty of chances to many people over the years, including myself. Got me onto the radio here and there, and it's been one of those times. So R.I.P. He was a good friend of mine over the years, and I miss him greatly on the radio too. Garrett Talbot's in the house. Hi, Garrett. And Mick Mulcahy has dropped in as well. Kieran, France. Don't know whether you're in France or your last name is actually France. I'm not sure. Everything seems to be going okay, which I'm quite happy with. Johnny Dubb has landed in there too. The full Irish Gary has come into the chat as well. That's a new one. It's a new name. I haven't read that one out before. Afternoon, Bob. Sorry for your loss. It's okay. It's not. It was more Albert's family's loss than mine. I know his sons, and they all worked. They were all part of the family, if you know what I mean. Everyone was part of Midlands 103. It's one of those places that never seems to go forward, never seems to go backwards either. The staff that work in Midlands 103 have been working in Midlands 103 since forever. A lot of them there have been there a long time. So it's really good that it's still continuing. But anyway, getting on with today, I think I spelled warranty wrong, but that's okay. From Crete, Lutz, you lucky thing. Nice to be in Crete today. We had brilliant. Yesterday's weather was absolutely phenomenal. I got a beautiful day out down in Wexford yesterday. Raymond Grace here as well. I think I spelled warranty wrong in the title of this, so I do apologise if I spelled that wrong. I don't know, I just have to come up there right now. I wasn't really paying attention. I literally sat down after having a fish finger sandwich. My wife said I had to have cheese, ketchup and mayonnaise on a fish finger sandwich, and I did, and it was like the Rolls Royce of fish finger sandwiches. So I just had one of them, then I ran upstairs and went, God, I haven't even set up the Sunday service yet. But anyway, here we go. Story out recently, which I seen on Facebook. Well, I didn't see it on Facebook. It was sent to me from a Facebook post. I don't use Facebook. But anyway, a taxi driver bought a Nissan Leaf, and since then, one morning he walked out, the car wouldn't start, wouldn't go, got it to a Nissan garage. Nissan said the battery was at fault and needed to be replaced. So the main drive battery, now not like the 12-volt battery, the drive battery. The cost of that was going to be €14,000, which is about half the value of the actual car. Iman, of course, asked, is it under warranty? And they go, no, the warranty has expired. Because the warranty on a Nissan Leaf, the battery is 8 years or 160,000 kilometers, whichever comes first. The range, or the thing on the car, the bit on the car, warranty-wise, had expired through mileage. And a word of warning to taxi drivers, like you buy cars and then you drive them every single day with very high mileage. The warranty there can always be arguable when it comes to mileage. The reason the mileage warranty exists is because of the way that you work on your cars, the way you do your warranty as it is. So I want to sort of dispel a few myths there that have popped up on Facebook It's not that I'm on the side of EVs or Nissan for that matter. I haven't actually had any contact with Nissan over this at all. But certainly there is a warranty on batteries. 8 years it seems to be the common warranty on most battery companies. But there is a mileage warranty too, just like your car, by the way. Your vehicle, your internal combustion engine car had a warranty that was limited by mileage as well as years. Even the legendary warranty that Kia has of 7 years is limited to 100,000 kilometers or 150,000 kilometers, I think. You could easily cover that in a diesel car. The reason I say this is because a lot of people, a lot of taxi drivers out there are buying electric cars because they're very cheap in comparison to buying internal combustion, because there's massive grants and stuff on battery vehicles for taxis. So you need to be paying attention to that. You need to understand what you're getting into here when you buy an electric car. Bender Balsam says, "Morning, Bob. Love the service. No problem. F1 to be running with sustainable fuels very soon." Sustainable. That's a word I like. Will a similar sustainable fuel make it to the general public? Yes. So really, we need to break down what that means. So sustainable means that we can make more of it at no cost to the environment. That means we can continue either growing it or making it or chemically enhancing it or whatever way we're doing it without having to mine it out of the ground or without having to do more work to the thing that the earth has to provide. So sustainable, there's two ways of doing sustainable. One is you grow your fuel, right? So that's totally possible. We've done it before. Vegetable oils. I made a documentary here on this very channel where I explained what Rudolf Diesel invented his diesel engine to run on was peanut oil. These things can be grown. Any sort of things even turn into oil, like olive oil or peanut oil, rapeseed oil, sunflower oil, any of that stuff is all considered to be sort of vegetable oil, okay? Peanut oil is a nut oil, I know, but it's still sort of vegetable oil. They are sustainable, but we can't grow enough of them to supply the current amount of fuels, particularly in Ireland. We wouldn't be sustainable on fuel again. The other kind of sustainable fuel we're talking about is synthetic fuel. That's fuel that it is enhanced fuel. So it's brought into a laboratory, it's grown there, not grown, but it's made there, and they can produce it, not much of it at the moment. They will be able to produce large quantities of it in the future. That's sustainable as well because it's not being mined, but it's still carbon, still producing carbon, but it's totally sustainable over time. And yes, that is coming to our beautiful petrol and diesel cars in the very near future. Fingers crossed, that is. I would very much like that stuff to get to us, so we can continue using our fuels. Because I still think the best thing you can do for the environment is to continue to use the thing you've got for as long as you possibly can, and that includes your car. Neil Hennigan says, "Love the Paul to Paul video. Thank you very much. I enjoyed that too. Would you like to see more about charging stop and Shum, the charging speed you got, the Scottish charging curve, and the cost?" I was going to go into the cost of it, but I in the video, I thought that would actually put people off watching it because it would get too technical too quickly. So you have to explain that stuff in a way that makes rational sense to someone. I thought the journey was more than enough for people to kind of take in and how difficult it is to get the charge points. The biggest factor I had in that whole thing was the expense, which is one, and I'm going to cover that in today's Sunday service. But I will cover it in another video later on, the breakdown of expense of that car over that entire journey, because I actually did about 1,000 kilometers over the 48 hours I had the car. So I picked it up in Dublin, drove to Donegal, drove from Donegal to Kerry to Portlaoise. It was about 1,000 kilometers. So the cost over that time, we've kind of worked out to be about €110. Not including lunch or coffees or any of that stuff. No stops, just the fuel, just the electricity part. And that's taken into account one of the charges being a home charge. Because the first charge was on a 7.5 kilowatt overnight. So it would have been normal price. But every charge after that was on a fast charge, or what they deemed to be a fast charge. The biggest difficulty I ran into was one of the charge points, even though the app said it was on, was not on. When I got there, I rang ESB. Your man just threw his hands up in the air and went, "There's nothing I can do to help you. Good luck. Enjoy yourself. There's a Tesco charger up the way, it's 22 kilowatt. That's how I ended up in a Tesco charger, and that got me enough to get onto Limerick, where there was a 50 kilowatt charger, which was billed, and I was paid the price of a 150 kilowatt charger, but I actually got 50 kilowatts at the point. Charging curve, the car charged up very quickly. Charging curve is something you really worry about if there's a problem. There was never any problem. The car was brilliant. The charge network was just such a ball ache to use, just so difficult. Everything became such a a hassle. When I started to run low, the hassle really started, Neil. And that was my biggest problem, is that the further I got, the less hassle the car got, the more hassle I became. And that really annoyed me. Please electric. What was this? Sorry. Just screen. Corey Keane says, please electric. What's that? Vans, Luton. How long will you be able to drive from Kerry and back? Okay, so how long it would take depends on what kind of car you're in, right? Electric vans are very, very hard on fuel because by its nature, a van is bigger and it's got a worse shape for going along motorway speeds. If you're in a hurry, I'm telling you now, if you're in a hurry and you do long driving in a van, just buy a diesel van. Don't buy an electric van. You're at nothing. A mate of mine bought the electric Mercedes bus thing and has had nothing but heartbreak just trying to charge the thing up all the time. You're always trying to get there and back. In a van, you're driving from Dublin to Kerry, you're going to have a bad time. You're going to have to stop for a charge along the way. You're going to stop for a charge on the way back. You're probably going to stop for a charge out there because these vans, you can't make a van any heavier. You know what I mean? You can't. A van's supposed to be able to carry a certain amount of weight. So you put big batteries in it, it weighs a ton. Then you put more batteries in it. Then you put more stuff you're carrying as well. It's just short range stuff. Batteries and vans are strictly for the birds. Or if you live in a city and you do your deliveries in the city, you might get away with that. But I wouldn't go near a van. But you're talking about at least a day, at least 2 hours added to your journey. Robin Mulhall is here. Good to see you. Hit stars just have to come back in. You missed 2 other ones. This is the third one or the fourth one we've done this year. I can't remember. We'll have to be back every week from now on. And the weather's changing too. Today is meant to be thunderstorms in the afternoon, by the way, later on this afternoon. Right now it's a bit milky sunshine out there. For the last few days it has been crispy blue sky over Portlaoise. And we've gone off to the beach a couple of times as well. Graham Cullen says, afternoon Bob, final day of our second heat wave in Edinburgh. I'm looking forward to tomorrow's rain. Hope all is well with Laois. It's going to rain today in Laois. There is from the southeast to Seaton, there is a lovely thunderstorm coming over the top of us. It's been due for a few days. It's still 25 degrees here in Portlaoise, but it's quite humid now. It's very, very warm. If you hear a little hum in the background, it's because I have a small fan going there in the background. Just keep me cool because it does get really hot in here with all the lights going. I even have the window wide open. There's not a breeze today. Not a single breeze. It's been beautiful. I ain't complaining. I've had a lovely time the last couple of days. We spent yesterday on Duncannon Beach all day. Met some lovely people. Just a great little beach to go to. You can drive on. It's a drive-on beach. Inch Beach was there yesterday as well. There was drive-on stuff. A couple of videos from that. Someone getting stuck on it. But today, I'm too tired to go anywhere today. I have to change cars tomorrow anyway. Michael Carton says, hi Bob, loved your video on the ENIAC, but the whole charging carry-on puts me off electric cars. Have the manufacturers ever expressed any concerns on the charging network in Ireland? Yes, all of them really. The charging network is usable in Ireland, but it's just when you need it most that it's not there. You know, it's just at that moment. Like I had finished filming. I'd made it to the finish line. I was done. I was going home. That's all I was doing to do. So I had taken out all the cameras out of the car to do the drive home. That's actually where the adventure started. Is when the cameras weren't rolling anymore. Suddenly I was short of electricity. Suddenly it was going to be difficult getting place. Then the charge point didn't work. That's why it's all kind of recorded on the diary cam thing and on my phone, and I just kind of recorded all kinds of different ways. But you can make the chargers work here, but it requires you to make them work. It requires you to plan things all the time. We have one charger in Portlaoise, it's 22 kilowatt uptown. You can start with your mobile phone. And what I mean is it uses your credit card to do it, but you still have to sign up to something. The problem is when you get to a charge point and you're confronted with having to sign up the some app thing, sign into your bank account, sign on to your whatever way you're billing it, your Revoluts and stuff. You have to sign into everything. And then you can start to charge. And then you find out you're paying 44 cents a kilowatt or 47 cents a kilowatt, which is more expensive than diesel. At this point, 15 quid's worth. The last charge I got, and I fell out with a guy on TikTok or Twitter on this, the last charge I got in the ENIAC was €15, which got me 200 kilometres. That's it. That's nothing. 200 kilometres out of €15 worth of fuel is just not good enough. And I know it's just the way things are going, but it just drives me bananas to think how much people are spending on those drugs and they think they're saving money. But you can use an electric car. And don't forget, I have a PHEV Kia Sportage this week with a 70 kilometre range, give or take. on its battery, and I've plugged it in every time at home. I haven't plugged it in out. I went to a Lidl once and plugged it in a little in Tullamore because it's still free to charge there. That's the only time I've plugged it in any sort of network thing, and it works fine. It works fine. We've done nearly 1,000 kilometers in it over the weekend, and it was brilliant. Don't worry about PHVs are great. New ones, the Sportage is great. The older ones, short range ones, not so much. But the new ones are good. But the Skoda Enyaq's a superb vehicle. It's just a shame that the charging network lets it down. I have to hydrate, because I've been hydrating all the wrong things over the weekend. John Burns says, just back from Mondello, Bob. Fantastic day out. Great racing. Car SOS team there too. Public allowed in the pits, which is great. All close up with cars and drivers. I just couldn't make time. I had this to do as well today. And yesterday I brought the kids and the wife down just for a breakout. Because I was at fundraiser there. I'm always at something somewhere. It's always on a weekend as well. So because I'm surrounded by cars all week, and then it's like the weekend as well, and the Bumblebee coming up, and I have to give a shout out to Simon Dean. Dean Motors in Dublin has offered a I'm not even going to tell you what it is yet. A fantastic car. I'm coming to Scotland for a spin with Bumblebee in I think it's early October, the first week of October, 31st of September into October, and we're going for a spin up around Scotland way. So I'll give out to the locations very soon and the map and everything else, and you can drop down if you're in the Scotland area. You want to drop down and see us? We'll be there. It'd be great. But I'm looking forward to that, and I have a fantastic car to do it in. I mean, a proper like sports car. Anyway, Salam from Germany says hello. So how are you doing? James Hope, this is why the Zoe owners love the 22 kilowatt AC chargers. Those things river can really save your bacon. That's what the Zoe was built for. I mean, that's what I actually think all of the cars should have been built with. I still have a problem with the onboard charger, and most cars only allowing 7.5 kilowatts. Zoe always allowed 22 kilowatts because Zoe initially was built with no fast charge. The very early Zoes are AC only chargers on them, but they are 22 kilowatt AC chargers, which means when you plug in 22 kilowatts, you're actually getting that into the battery. Made the batteries last longer, so older Zoes are actually quite desirable these days. And the Zoe right now is good. The only complaint I have with the Zoe is the bloody noise of that thing when it's charged. You can hear it from across the street. It's really loud. It's the only one I would look at. Hi Bob, says Rob Brady. 6th generation F30 BMW 3 Series, good second-hand buy. They're fetching quite a high money, Rob, be the problem at the moment. I don't think they're going to hold on to their money over time. I think a lot of those cars will become it won't be a collector's item of the big ones in the future, I don't think. But then the same was said about the 5 Series that Chris Bangle invented and designed, and that is highly desirable now, but it was billed as being fierce ugly when it came out first. But the F30s are a good one. Yeah, no problem with those. The diesel engines had a recall over their timing chain. And so if it hasn't had that recall complete, get it done, because it will be a big problem if that goes. That is the end of it. Thank you very much for clicking the like button and the comment button. There is, I don't know how many of you here, I can't see. There's 100 of you here anyway, I think. So click the like, click the comment, click the share button, click subscribe if you're a new subscriber, you've never been here before, because this happens every Sunday. And if you click the little bell thing as well, you'll get a notification when this happens. Then it saves you having to worry about, did I miss it? Is it on? Ta-da. You know, the usual stuff here. Raymond Gray says, a taxi owner in Mullingar purchased an electric car and changed it back to diesel. The battery was flat by 1 o'clock. There's the problem. Some taxi drivers seem to be able to make it work. I would suggest that a lot of taxi drivers who are charging at fast charge networks are finding it quite difficult now because there's queues. And I even see it here in Portlaoise. There's only a couple of, there's one Skoda Enyaq, and there's something else. There's a couple of Portlaoise cars are electric. And I find I'm invariably up in Portlaoise Plaza or somewhere right behind one of those taxis waiting for a charge when I do charge. Sometimes I'll charge. I like to go charge at the fast charge points just to see how fast things charge while I'm there. Because a lot of times, because I know how it's going to charge at home. Like at home is at home. It all does that. But a lot of the taxi drivers will be complaining a lot more in the near future. I don't want to mess with your name. Your name is Amwaj Amin or something. Opinion on the Civic Type R, which one? There's a few of them around. The modern one is actually pretty good. There's been a few along the way that have been very firm, and I mean bone-shakingly hard to drive. They're supercars to drive. They're track-focused. They're not really a car that you would necessarily have as a daily driver. But I think they're a great car. Civic Type R's have always been very, very good and very nice to drive at all times. So you can get away with it fairly handy, all right. But they can be really, really hard on your spine when they're driving along. That's it. One of my little lights has run out of battery. I don't know if I have a socket that I can plug it into to make it light up without that. I don't think I have power anywhere. Like, I suppose I could plug it into there, couldn't I? Could I? This might get hot now. Hold on now, because I have a little. Oh yeah, we're charging. Oh yeah, we're all right. It works. Yep, it works. The Ulanzi, I use these little RBG lights. These little, it's not an ad. I'm not paid to do this. It's called Ulanzi. They're absolutely brilliant jokes. The battery lasts forever. There's one of them here lit up beside me, and it's a full charge on a light, and that gives me that sort of side light there. We can put a bit of extra light on my face, just so the camera doesn't work so hard. If you're getting a bad picture on your camera, it's because you don't have enough lights. Most cameras are okay. Just don't deal with dark situations very well. Anyway, Rob Brady says, hi, Bob. 6 we did that, all right. The known issues look out for Rob is the timing chain on the engine. Be very careful with those. They do go. Eamon Donnelly's here as well. Don says, that's all. Eamon, do you want to explain what that meant? Or do you type in something entirely? There we go. Right. Eamon Donnelly says, hi, Bob. Can you please give opinions on Nissan Ariya and the Audi e-tron SUV? Both those cars are reviewed. The Ariya, not so much because it was only a drive in Mondello, but the e-tron is there, all right, yeah. We've done those two. Both those cars are quite heavy. The e-tron particularly feels like a big, heavy, substantial car when you're driving along, but most Audis kind of feel like that anyway. The e-trons haven't got great range because they're massive and they have four-wheel drive and they weigh lots. The Nissan Ariya seems to be a pretty good value proposition if you buy the reasonably priced one. If you go for the bigger battery one, the price has gone wild. Like, because you lose the grants, the prices go a little bit mad along the way. And that's the problem with the Nissans. And that's the problem with all of the cars, actually. Once they get over the grant point, they look really expensive because you're looking at the real price of the car. Like the Nissan Ariya, I think, is 69 grand for a Nissan, you know. And it's a good looking Nissan. It's a good looking car. It's good inside as well. I really like the look of the thing. I just wouldn't be keen on spending nearly 70,000 euros on any car, not just Nissan, but on any car. Particularly with batteries in them. I'd have to, that's a big investment you're making there. Now, e-tron is probably a little bit more expensive even, but they do feel a little bit more substantial when you're driving around them. Depends how much money you want to spend, Dave. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for any car, let alone a Nissan, you know. Dave Hall, good afternoon from North London. North London, what's the weather like there? Is it raining there yet? Or are we just all like sweating in because there's sweat everywhere? Yesterday was so warm, but the day before was worse. We went down to Kilmore Quay day before. I went down to the beach there. The beach, they mine silica down in Kilmore Quay, in that area. There's a factory there for mining it. And silica retains heat very well. And so the beach is partially made of silica in Kilmore Quay. So you burn your feet walking around it. I literally mean you burn your feet so bad, it's terrible. You have to run across it. Dave Starr says, if everyone changed electric cars, the power network in Ireland hasn't got capacity with both the additional load and harmonics post-war electrification. Correct, Mundo. It is being upgraded, but it is very, very slow. We're still getting threats of blackouts and all kinds of stuff at the moment from, I guess, the blessed Green Party is the ones actually doing a lot of that stuff. But they are, the problem we have is that our network is like post-war stuff, and we're only getting to the modern stuff now. And it's still powered by bad things. Now, I'm not saying that's taken away from the electric cars. Electric cars are still pretty good. Like, a lot of the cars actually drive okay. Most of the car companies now have overtaken what Tesla was trying to do all along. And it's just working out nicely for electric cars, but it's still not working out well for the network. The network has caused us the biggest problems. And I think that's going to continue being a big problem as well over the next few months. We're going to have fierce trouble with electricity and how much electricity supply we have, particularly as more and more cars go electric and businesses and less solar panels being sold. And it's still really expensive if you want to put in electric panels or solar panels in your house and you know, convert over to running. It's incredibly expensive. I watched a TikTok this morning, a guy saying it cost him £19,000 to transfer over to have enough to generate enough electricity and store it in batteries to be able to power his house. £19,000 is a lot of money. It's just that's a big investment for a return you may never see the fruition of. £19,000 is an extension on your house, like. Sean Murray says, hi Bob, enjoyed your pole-to-pole video infrastructure for charging a bit to go. A long way to go, I would suggest, Sean. A lot to do with, like, so I used the car sat nav, and I did that on purpose. I could have used a better route planner. I could have used, you could use Google Maps if you want to, but none of these things are actually connected to the car. The car's own sat nav was able to tell me how long I needed to stop for and charge and where the charge point would be. So the car sat nav was the one I would default use if I was going a long way in an electric car, because the car is aware of its own charge and its own usefulness. So it modifies its stuff along the way and tries to figure out where you're going to be and how long it's going to take to be there and how long you're going to have to stay for charge, and all that stuff has to happen. But the problem I had then was that is not necessarily connected to the charger. So the charger's not giving the information back to the car to say, I'm free, I'm broken, I have a roof, there's a queue. These are things that are important, lads. When you're driving electric cars long enough times, you suddenly realize there's nothing worse than pulling up to a charge point and the app says there's someone at it. They've been at it for 20 minutes. You're thinking they're going to spend another 15 or so minutes in that car. And you pull up and you find there's 4 electric cars ahead of you at that charge point waiting for a charge as well. Now you're going to 2 hours. So we need more chargers. We need faster chargers. I think 50 kilowatts is just about acceptable as a fast charge. It's only just acceptable now. I think 100 kilowatts where actual fast chargers need to be. Those batteries are big. 78 kilowatt hour batteries in some of these cars. They're big. They're big batteries. And they need to charge up fast. Is the VW Tiguan petrol 1.5 any good in your opinion? Yes, Dave. Good car. Yeah, no problem. Suffered from a thing called kangarooing early on in its life. And that was the engine that was doing that. Kangarooing is when the car goes, it's taken off. But they did a software update to fix that. So be careful of that one. Check it doesn't do it. It does it at low speed. You know, if you're coming into a roundabout, you're doing 5 or 6 kilometers an hour and you're going through the roundabout and you put your foot down to go again and the car won't. It'll bounce forward. They call it kangarooing. Just make sure it never happens. And you'll be fine. But it was a great car after that. Yeah, no problem. 1.4 TSI was a nicer engine. Hey Bob, I've never used a public charger for my EV. I use ICE vehicle when traveling. That's a lot of people are still like you. What's after happening a lot as well is that car ownership has sort of changed. What's after happening is people who bought an electric car kept their ICE car as well. So they got 2 cars. All of a sudden they only had 1 car up to this point. Now they have 2 because they don't trust 100% the long range capability of EV yet. And so they're willing to pay. They're willing to pay more. Dave Hall is boiling in London, just slowly boiling. I'm slowly cooking sitting here. This seat is slightly leatherish. I won't say it's fully leather. It's like a gaming chair thing. It's probably not real leather, but it's some sort of leather thing. And it's kind of sticky now. So I need that fan, but I need it down low. Anyway, Andrew says, hi Bob, just back from a 1,300 kilometer road trip from Clane to Reading and back in the Honda E. Jesus, that must have taken a while. 15.4 kilowatt per 100 kilometers tap and go in UK, except for Ionity. I know the tap and go thing, lads. This is something that really bugs me in this country. Andrew, you're dead right. Small range on the car. That's good efficiency though. 15.4 kilowatt per 100 kilometers is really good. Anything under 20 is pretty good. Anything under 15 is really good. Like 13, 12, 10, any of those kind of numbers is incredibly good fuel efficiency. I say fuel efficiency, but it's electric efficiency or battery efficiency. But the tap and go thing really, really bothers me in this country. We still have this mentality that we need to take everybody's banking details into the system. And then only then when you've signed up to everything, you've signed your terms and conditions, then you turn it on. Then you have to give them credit. So ESB, really ESB, this is a real question for ESB. I have €3.50, I think, left on my ESB credit. So you have to give them 20 quid. But that's not enough, it says, to start another charge. So they have my €3.50. And until I put more money in it, it won't let me start any charge. So I can't use up that whole $3.50. It won't use it. That's insane. That's theft. That's essentially you've stolen my money and now you're extorting more from me. What I want to do is rock up to a charge thing which has a near field communicator. I can pay for my parking on my phone. When I walk up to a parking meter thing, I can tap the phone and pay for it that way. Why can't I pay for my electricity like that? I don't want to sign up to anybody. don't want to bring up sign-ups to nothing. I just want to do it. Simple as that. So I love that, Andrew. You've done 1,300 kilometers. It's a small little car to be doing that, but a Honda E is actually pretty efficient because it's small in the first place. It's light, and because it's light, it actually goes a bit further on the size of the battery. Does using premium give any benefit for engine? In my experience, Alex, no. I would say you'd have to use premium fuel all of the time to get a regular feel to it. Eventually it will pay you off. But I think putting it in, giving your car a treat once a month and filling it up on premium fuel, I don't think does a whole lot for you, to be honest with you. But it does have a different chemical compound, but I really don't think it does a whole lot for you. Michael Carton says, guy on local radio promoting EVs, just plug in and relax and go for a cup of coffee. 2 minutes later, the problem with petrol and diesel is you end up buying a coffee and chocolates when you're paying. Laughable. There's the other side of the EV thing is, even if you're good at plugging in and charging up and doing your thing, you suddenly find you're spending an awful lot more on EVs because you're buying a coffee. Like every time you go to a charge point, you're getting a coffee, you're getting a sandwich, you're getting a croissant, you're getting a burger or something, and you end up kind of living your life in a petrol station. And who in the name of God wants to do that? Because most of the petrol stations right now are complete rip-off. I have to say, I was in a petrol station the other day, as I always am, because I'm always on the road doing something. And I came across, they just put the price up of the price of coffee there. And I cannot find the picture. I found it. So an Americano, this is a Circle K, by the way. And I'll show you the picture I took. There's the picture I took of the price list, okay? Just to prove I'm not messing you. So a price of an Americano, a small Americano was €3.05. €3.40 for a medium and $3.85 for a large Americano. That is coffee with hot water in it, an Americano. And you have to make it. It's out of a machine. A flat white is $3.15. A tea is €2.40. Tea, like the most basic of all things we have in this country, is €2.40. $3.85 sickened my crotch the other day. $3.85 is an insane amount of money to pay for a coffee. So I'm calling on everyone to stop buying a coffee in a petrol station. Stop it. You're being ripped off. You're not shopping around. You're not thinking with your head at all. I can make a coffee. So I want to put something to your head here for a second, right? You bring a cup to a petrol station. You use boiling water into your cup and go over to the coffee. Go over where you buy Maxwell House coffee. Little pots of it. I bet you'd make a coffee for cheaper than they can make you one coffee in Americano. And you could buy enough coffee to do you for weeks. Just don't. It's crazy. You're paying a fortune for the coffee. They're making a fortune out of you. Andrew says the Paul is very good. I've noticed that as well, Andrew. I'm kind of humbled by that because that one took a long time to make. I had to plan it and then we had to drive all the way up to Letterkenny to do it in the first place. But I'm going to bring in more of that. So I've arranged with Kia to test one of their cars, do an entire circumnavigation of Ireland in an electric car. I'm not the first one to do that, but I'll be the first one to do it for my channel. It's the first time my channel ever done it. And I'm also arranging with another car company to do a different, very long run as well in a different part of Ireland. So it should be good. I know you're looking for more adventures out of me. That's what I think you're looking for. Less reviews, less kind of point of this is the review of the car, and more kind of let's see if we can break this car. We're also on Tuesday filming a little bit for a TV show again. So I was going to show you the trailer when that comes out. So I haven't even seen the rushes of myself. I've only seen little clips of it. So I haven't seen a whole lot of that. So that's coming out, I hope, next year. A car-based TV show, which should be good. I'm really hoping myself and Dave O'Queen can nail this one down. Everybody wants to help. There's so much help out there. God, everybody wants to give me contacts and people to talk to and commissioning agents and all these things. It's brilliant. It'd be great to have it on TV. But the Paul to Paul showed me that people want me to do adventure things. So more adventure things coming. They do cost a fortune, I have to say. Doing the adventure ones cost a lot more than just doing a review. There was a hotel involved, there's lunches, there's dinners, and editing goes on for days as well. So if you can support the channel financially brilliantly, there is a list of links down below, either PayPal, which is there as well, just for one single donation. You can go Patreon, which a few new patrons have come on in the last few days. Really good. Thank you very much. Patreon's a great way of doing it because it's ongoing subscription. I know how much is coming in a month. And there's also channel memberships here as well. To a lesser degree, I use channel memberships because YouTube take a bloody fortune of the channel memberships, by the way. So it's hard to keep track of that one. But the PayPal and Patreon ones are pretty good. If you can support it, great. If you can't, don't worry about it. At least share the channel out and subscribe. That's free for everybody to do. Thanks. Where was I? John, I've never had a hot hatch, but with the way things are going, what powered diesel? See, diesel hatches are not hot hatches. Can I just tell you now? There's no such thing as a hot hatch diesel. They look like GTD was billed as a GTI diesel. It isn't. It's a Golf diesel with more horsepower in it. It's not a high-powered thing. High-powered, hot hatch cars are traditionally petrol-powered cars. And in that, you're looking at a Golf GTI or a Golf R or a Skoda Octavia VRS, RS would be called as well. But when you go to diesel, there is really, GTD is really the only kind of hot hatch diesel things. Even if you're going to do it till you die. Sean Cashin, how's it going? I'm going fine, thanks very much. What do you make of the older model Megane, looking at the 2011, 2014? Not sure what they make of them. They're okay. Stick to the petrol ones. The diesel ones, DCI engines are good, but really noisy. The 1.5 DCI engine was actually a really reliable car. I think it's sold now as a 1.6 DCI, but still DCI. They are pretty reliable engines. Meganes, Renaults, they tend to get a bit creaky as they get old. That's how they work. They tend to get some electrical gremlins, like lights not working on the back of the car. You've seen these cars. Drive along, press the brakes, nothing happens on the front. You know, no lights in the back, no lights in the front. Something goes on. They've all got little electrical gremlins, usually on the older models. Megane is a very high seller car here. There's plenty of them around. Good value, I'd say. John says, bring back car crotch vent. Do you remember the car crotch? There was actually a little vent in your seat. It used to ventilate your undercarriage. What did they call it in the Gooch or something? They call it in Jackass, I think it was called that. Francis says, Begbie, any relation to train spotting? Car manufacturers making vast profits on electric cars. Don't think the car manufacturers are making vast profits on electric cars. They are making profits. That is the nature of business. But they'd be as profitable, I would say, as petrol and diesel engine cars. I don't even much of a difference on those two things. Car companies don't tend to make profits on volume. It's a weird way of doing it. So essentially you nearly sell the car at cost, but you just sell a hell of a lot of them and you'll make a profit anyway. Whereas the kind of bespoke manufacturers have to sell it at profit levels to make some money out of it, because they're only going to sell a handful. Paul to Paul made me think you spend 50 to 60k on an EV and then your journey is made longer and stressful due to the infrastructure. I choose to go hybrid, leaving the Bear Peninsula. You're probably right. I won't say they're more stressful, because the intelligence of the sat nav in the car takes that out of it. You know, you press the button where you want to go and it just tells you where you're going to stop. The infrastructure makes it stressful. And it's a thing I coined a phrase a few years back called charger anxiety. It's not range anxiety, it's charger anxiety. So you know how far your car's going to go. You've driven it for long enough, so you have a basic idea of how well the thing does. But the problem is whether the charger's working, whether it's online, whether there's a queue at it, whether it's broken now. Maybe the head of it is broken. And like I pointed out in the one in Tuam, there was cobwebs on that thing. No one had touched that yoke in weeks. There was cobwebs all over it. The cable at the top had exposed cables hanging out. People obviously tried to damage it. I've been to other ones. The one in Letterkenny has the edges broken off the thing you plug into your car. That's not coming up as being broken on the system. I was at another one, a 22 kilowatt one that was supposedly working on the system, pulled out the top of the plug, and the whole top of the plug had been broken. Obviously, someone had been swinging it around and smashing it against something to smash off the plastic bit. So there's lots of exposed metal on it. This is the problem. It's the infrastructure, support for the infrastructure. It's not there. They've never gotten enough money. Never. They got 20 million a couple of years ago to do something with it. That just got absorbed into wages and things and parts and bits. That was no new chargers came out of that. No new nothing came out of that. We've had a couple of new chargers after just been built. They're already pretty much out of date. We're still having a sign up for ESB. And ESB is a kind of a monopoly, lads, as well. You got to remember that. ESB is a state-funded system. No private company can compete with ESB. Simple as that. Because if a private company wants to build a 5 150 kilowatt hour chargers up the road here, they have to ask ESB to supply them electricity. And ESB goes, no, can't do that there. Then they're out. That's the end of that. It's the end of the business. ESB should never be in charge of ESB networks for electric cars. It should never have happened. They shouldn't be there. Sorry, ESB. I'm not giving out about ESB particularly. They're probably doing what they can, and the people who work there are usually very nice. But I just don't see it really moving forward. And for the first few years, that ESB network's like a retirement home. Everyone I met in the place was nearly 60, 65, moving on to retirement. Anyway, Steve O.C. says, tip, if you hit the large coffee button, it fits in the medium cup, just saying, still expensive poxy coffee if you chuckle walking away. I know I do that too. Sometimes you go up to the counter and go, I had a tea. Because nobody checks anyway. Just go, I had tea and go on. But like crazy money, lads, for coffee, you're mad. Young people are giving up on having no money in their pocket and they're walking along the road talking while they're drinking a €5 piece of coffee. Like, and they're going, I have no money in the bank at the end of the month. I'm going into the red every month. Do you want to get a coffee? You're crazy. God, in the 80s, we just had a flask. You couldn't buy a bleeding coffee in Ireland in the 80s. You had to bring your own or nothing. And then it was just Maxwell House. That was the only coffee bar. There was no such thing as Kenko or anything else. Save money. Stop buying things when you're in a petrol station. Buy the fuel and go on, Mr. Yourself. Get out there. Go somewhere else. And if you're going to buy food, buy quality food, lads. Because that Supermax has good food, but it's very expensive as well. You're talking about over a tenner for a basic meal in Supermax now. And it's all getting smaller and the portions are smaller. And all that's after happening as well. And they're the guys that are controlling a lot of the plaza action. Them and Burger King is in there as well. I think they're with Apple Green and Burger King. And Apple Green have a couple of other ones inside as well, but it's all really expensive and you can see it. And you can see if you just opened your eyes for a minute and stop buying things every week and buy things once a month, you'd soon find out the prices are crazy. We went yesterday to the beach and we've one of those fridges you get in Lidl. You plug it into a 12 volt and it blows cold air into itself. Well, fridge air, I suppose. It keeps things cool throughout the day. Brought one of them in a boot to the Sportage, went down to the beach, brought salad rolls, we got them in Lidl, bought some coleslaw and cheese and ham and chicken stuff, all that sort of stuff you buy in Lidl, just in the packets. Came to about, I'd say, 15 quid, and we didn't buy it in a shop anywhere. Oh no, I did. I bought an iced coffee in this beautiful little shop that was there. This girl made 2 little iced coffees for us. That's the only thing we bought all day, but we don't buy coffee out normally, ever. So we had a full day out yesterday, not including fuel, for about 20 quid, I'd say, for the whole day. So, like, you can do it. It's totally possible. But it's just, we come from a different era. I think myself and the wife were born in the 70s, so we know how to save a bit of cash. So I'm sure you do too. Dave Hall says, brilliant deals in London with coffee thing, Bob. Pret to direct debit, £25 per month. You can have up to 5 coffees a day. It's a great deal. Oh my God. That's the price of a Sky bill. You can have broadband in Ireland for, that's about €30, I reckon, £25, 28, maybe €30 or so. €30 a month is a mobile phone contract, and you just want it in coffees. What we do for coffee around the house, we have a coffee machine, and that coffee machine is about 20 years old. It's a really old York. It was a James Martin, the chef. It was his coffee machine he sold as part of his product. We bought it 20 something years ago. You put your little coffee powder on the top, which we buy in Lidl. No, maybe in Aldi. No, I think it's Lidl. It's one of those bags of coffees you buy in Lidl. And we put that into the top of it. We fill it up. It makes about 4 or 5 cups in the morning. And that's what we have. And I'd say per cup, it's probably cents. Just 2 or 3, 4 cents per cup out of that York every day. And when we're going out, then we bring a travel cup and we fill up the rest of the cup in that. And we bring that with us. And we don't buy coffees out. Sometimes we'll actually, sometimes when we go out, for a day, we'll bring a little gas stove, we'll boil water and bring instant coffee with us. That's how bad it's become. It's not because I can't afford coffee, it's because I'm not stupid. I'm just not going to spend the money on buy. Every time I charge a car, 15 quid to charge a car, another £5 for a coffee and a croissant. Nah, thanks, you're all right. Not for me. Oil Tech says, do you rate the Skoda Enyaq as the best EV car in a minute, Bob? The best EVs on the market you can buy right now is, and I would kind of rate these nearly equally, Skoda Enyaq, Kia EV6. Those 2 cars are brilliant. Kia just brought out the new Niro, very good car as well. Probably not quite as big as EV6, but very practical, very good software to go with as well. I'd still put the Skoda Enyaq up there with it, so they're very, very much neck and neck on EV stuff. After that, you're kind of into a mixed bag. Like ID4 and ID5 are very good. From Volkswagen, very similar to Enyaq. I think Enyaq looks better. ID4 GTX looks great, although you don't need a GTX, very expensive, but it looks good with the big wheels on it. Other electric cars that I would look at the moment, there's not many. Being honest with you, not many at the moment. Most of them are out of my price range. Just like, Audi's GT yoke is brilliant. A great car, but it's really expensive. As is BMW's i7, is a really good car, just it's such an expensive yoke. But yes, Skoda Enyaq will be up there. EV6 will be up there as one of the top cars. Graham Cullen says EV coffees. There's got to be a kettle on Amazon that boils off one mug off a car. Cigarette lighter as a money saver. Tell the car brands become an option. Did you know you used to be able to buy a coffee maker for the Fiat Panda? Was it the Panda or was it the other one? One of the Fiat gigs I was on over in Milan, they had a coffee machine, a machine that sat into the coffee cup holder and made a cup of coffee for you. So it's totally possible, yes. You can ask any truck driver. There's loads of them, USB boilers, and there's ones that does hot water. There's the old-fashioned one you're thinking of was the Element, which you plugged into cigarette lighter and dropped into the cup and it would boil the water and it would burn the hands off you trying to get it back out again. Those older ones, the danger of the 80s. The standard danger in the 80s. But the coffee maker set of car would be something I'd be very happy to have, yeah. I wouldn't drink a lot of coffee during the day. I drink it in the morning, all right. Francis Begbie says nose heavy diesels. All petrol engine and diesel engine cars are all nose heavy because the engine's out the front of it. But it's good. It can have good balance. But the modern electric cars are all in the center. It's kind of weird. It's very easy to upset the weight balance now because everything is in the middle of the car. No weight over the front, no weight over the back. All the weight's in the middle of the car, so it spins around in circles. It's very strange. We did it with EV6. Sean Casher says, I have a commute to work, need a diesel, don't know what hatch to buy. I'd buy, if I was buying a diesel, second-hand diesel car right now, I would buy a Skoda Octavia VRS diesel. And I'd buy it in a state form because you're just going to keep that running for 10 years. No problem. It's just a good car to do everything. You can put a roof rack on it. You can put a trailer on them. You can put tons of things in the back. There's room for dogs. There's room for babies. There's room for kids in the back. There's room for a wife. There's room to get a bit of nookie on the back seat as well. You can turn it into a bed overnight. It's just one of the most practical cars, and it looks deadly in the right colours. It looks deadly. You want to tart it up a bit, put in a touchscreen into the thing if it hasn't got it already. Put on a set of alloys. It'll change the way it looks as well. They're absolutely phenomenal cars, and I know I'm probably driving the price. They're very hard to get, but it's one of my all-time favourite cars. Was the current model and previous models of Octavia, going back for the last 10 years nearly. But they're very good. And as diesel goes, the 2 litre diesel in them is indestructible. Jake, averaging 7.5 litres per 100 kilometres on a new 308 is just me or is extremely high. That is pretty high. I'm assuming that's a mild hybrid or something, just a petrol car, like just an ordinary petrol thing. 7.5, 7 would be all right for petrol on its own. My PHEV, if it is a PHEV one, my PHEV Kia Sportage is averaging 4.8 litres per 100 kilometres, and it's a petrol PHEV. Now, it does have a 70 kilometre range, so it's quite a good range of the things. There's Ben Crosby. Hi, Ben. S. Cahill. Well, Bob, any experience with the S-Max? I have, yeah. The Ford Sprog is on the way. I would like to Galaxy, but can't find a decent one. You won't either, unfortunately. They were really expensive. Didn't sell very many of them, so the ones that did get sold got used a lot. But can't find this one. It seems a lot more S-Max in the market. S-Max, it was much more popular in the UK because it's more of a daddy-looking car. You know what I mean? It's got those fins and alloys and things. Looks like a car that you know, it's a sporty family car. That's why there's more of them. S-Max and Galaxy are the same platform underneath, same engines. It'll be fine. It's a good car. Try to stick to the manual one. It's more reliable than the power shift one, but power shift's not that bad either. Sorry. Andrew only at the queue once at Ionity, 5 minutes in the UK. It's not gas, Ionity. It's amazing to see a queue at Ionity. You don't see anyone near Ionity in this country. There's only ever like one car at it. It's usually a Volkswagen brand car as well because they've done a deal there. But because Ionity here is really expensive. 78 cents a kilowatt, I think, or something, which is way above what you pay for petrol or diesel. That Corsola says, well, Bob, haven't spoken to you in a while. Good. Mainly because you blocked me on this old TikTok. Care to amend this? No, I don't amend blocking. If I block you, you get blocked unless there's some good reason that I don't block you. Hi, Bob, I take a flask with me. See, Peter knows the score. Take a flask, lads. I used to work at night time. My first job was when I was 15 years old. I used to deliver post at night time. A fella called Ray Snowden. It was a good job. I didn't get paid much at it, but it was a good job. And I used to bring a little bag with sandwiches and a flask of tea with me every time, every night, because there was no other way of doing it. Because you couldn't stop for a coffee or tea in this time. Raymond Grace, thank you very much for supporting this channel. You're very kind. PayPal, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to having my next adventure thing, which is coming up really soon. Actually, only a couple of weeks away before I actually take this next adventure. I'm doing a Kia, and we're going around Ireland. in nothing but electric mode. And I mean all the way around Ireland in one day. 1,000 kilometers, hopefully. John Byrne, what do you think of buying something like an Audi A8 diesel Jag XF in this day and age, Bob? Some 2016 A8s are high priced, but dealers cut 4K off while little haggling. No problem with that at all. Don't forget, the fuel we're using is going nowhere. We can't just dump everything into the ocean or something and suddenly go electric. You're going to have, the fuel that we're using will have to be continued to be used for the foreseeable future. After 2030, you're going to stop manufacturing new models of electric cars or new models of petrol and diesel powered cars after 2030. But I would see that date shifting. It's already shifted twice. It was supposed to be 2025, then it went to 27, now it's 2030. So they're still after offering another 5 years of manufacturing internal combustion. And when that goes, it will only be the internal combustion that's going to go is one that have no battery power. So just straight diesel, straight petrol. That's the one that's going to go. Oh, by the way, this is a flask that I got from Land Rover. See it there? I got it on a trip. It's actually got my name in the back of it. I've had it for a long time. I try not to buy bottles of water because it only adds to the plastic mess out there. We should be refilling our bottles. Anyway, thoughts on Revolut offering car insurance in Ireland. Can't wait. Another insurance company coming to Ireland would be absolutely phenomenal for Ireland. This is a very important step for Ireland. But now it only matters, obviously, if they're going to be some way reasonably priced. That is our problem. We could have Revolut and they're so expensive that you can't afford them anyway. So it'd be great to have another company in the country who are going to offer car insurance, home insurance, health insurance. Any bit of competition is always a winner for the general public out there. And that's the most important part. The general public is the one that gets ripped off all the time. You're the ones trying to save money. You're the ones trying to save up money out there and stay on course to get through your year, because you're going to tighten the belts in the next while. I can tell you that for sure. Price of things going up right now. We were in Lidl, or Aldi or somewhere yesterday, and I can see it straight away. You can see it used to be like a tenner for the stuff we'd buy for a salad at home. It's now kind of more like 15 or 17 euro. The only thing that seems to remain the same is price of drink. That seems to be stuck at like $7.99 now because of minimum price alcohol. But the rest of the stuff, all the fruit and veg and cold cuts and meat in general, price of butter, lads, the price of real butter. We've only ever used real butter in this house for the last 15 years. I think we only ever buy just a pound of butter, ordinary butter. It's much tastier, it's much healthier for you. It's got good fats in it, very low saturated fats in it. There's all kinds of stuff, all kinds of good reasons why you should use butter all the time. But a pound of butter now is nearly €4. That is scary, seeing as that butter is made in this country. Very expensive. Butter's gone crazy. Eric Rochford says, between fuel and rising energy prices coming into winter, everyone might be thinking twice about their €5 cup of coffee. I'm telling you, that's how you save money, lads. You look after the little bits. You look after the small expenses where you're going bink, bink with your phone or with your card, and you're tapping. You want to tap, you tap everything. If you stop doing that, if you stop going for the little coffee, for the little croissant, for the takeaway every evening, for those little tiny expenses, that will be the thing that will actually solve your problems. Not the big expenses, not the mortgage. It's not cutting out that. It's not cutting out paying for the kids to do sports days, or it's not that stuff. It's always the little things that catches you. I've lost my train of torque, which is the best name I've heard ever. Afternoon, Bob. Any electric car have built-in front and rear cameras for safety, as public can't hear you approaching, as well as worrying about charging, hopefully not getting a flat tire. The front and rear cameras are on most of the cars, but they only come on when you're parking, so they're not on all the time. They don't come on. Most of them don't have an option of putting on cameras until you're doing like 5 kilometers an hour, because they turn them off so you don't be watching. Because you would look, if you were driving on the road, you would look at the camera. That's what you do. You drive like that, looking at the camera instead of looking out the front window. Some of the electric cars are actually quite noisy. Other ones are not noisy, but they make a noise that doesn't sound like a car, which is why people don't hear you coming. It's just a kind of a drone, just drones along the road. I don't see collisions going up any higher in electric cars than they were in petrol and diesel. I'm not sure how much of a danger that is actually. But when you're getting flat tires and stuff, they don't even put spare tires in cars anymore. Most spare cars don't have spare tires now for no reason. Where would that come from? Shane Kiernan says Multipla. Oh, yeah, it was a Multipla. You put a coffee machine in a Multipla. that is true. I know where there. Oh, yeah, there it is. Here we are. John Gerard says, hi, Bob. Why is there no motorway service from Limerick to Tuam? I know. Isn't it awful? At Limerick, Dublin has these 5 service stations. I don't know. I spent so long on that motorway the other day driving along thinking, and you know what really bothers me is that people have put in, the builders have put in parking areas. So you can pull over to the left hand side of the road. There's bins, and that's it. There's nowhere to go to the toilet. There's nowhere to go for a walk. There's no kind of treed area. It's stupid. Does anybody drive in Germany before they build these things? In Germany, they have truck stops on the side of the road, big ones, and they have toilets and showers in them. Like, they're indestructible. They're made of concrete. They're not pleasant. I'm not saying they're good places or pleasant places to stop, but certainly far superior to what we have here, where we just have 3 bins on the side of the road and a footpath, and all you do is stand there like an idiot looking back at the traffic. Nowhere to sleep. It's not quiet. It's crazy sort of stuff. But the one from Limerick to Troom that I was driving on, I was just sitting there going, why is there nowhere to pull over in this thing at all? Nowhere to stop to get a cup of, well, here we are, a cup of coffee. Nowhere to stop to get a walk in or stretch your legs or something, anything at all. Or even just if you needed to stop for dinner, I suppose you can stop there too. MG EVs, Robert Wood. Robert, I've been trying for ages to get a hold of an MG EV to review. They're booked out, or they don't have them, or they sell them very quickly because they really don't have much of a stock of them in Ireland. So even the press cars go out very fast. I have arranged for a new one to come in. I've driven the early models of them. They're okay. I don't think their design is going the right direction. I've seen some fresh designs from them. They look fresh, but I think we don't need an EV looking car, lads. I'm telling you, you don't need a yacht that looks like a spaceship to be an EV. We need good looking, honest looking cars, because you think of look at the difference between the EV6 and the Ioniq 5, because those 2 cars are the same underneath. So the same engines, motors and battery technology, chassis, all the same. The change design on the outside. Which one would you choose? Because for me, I would go with EV6. It looks brilliant. It looks like something that came out of Blade Runner. It looks futuristic, but looks classic as well. Whereas the Ioniq 5, I think it'll date very badly. I think it'll get old quick and it'll look kind of weird in a couple of years' time. It looks a bit unusual. So I think it's one of those things you kind of have to look after and go, well, I'm not sure I want that the way the AMG are changing their design. Peter says, Bobby still got the all-set lane. I do. I've no intention to get rid of it either. It's a workhorse. It literally drove my daughter's gone off today to go and spend some time with a friend of hers, and my wife drove her up to do it in the Leon. The only thing that doesn't work is the air conditioning. Everything else works. The car just starts and goes every day. Never had a problem with it. And I just cannot see a reason why I would change that for something that I'm buying and have to finance and get warranty starts again. You're not sure where it's going. These, any of them, doesn't matter whether it's electric or otherwise. It doesn't matter which one it is. They're all very expensive at the moment. Sniper Patch says, Bob, I'm thinking of buying a new Dacia Duster. Good car. Diesel, I always drove a Toyota Venza, but the Duster's like reliability. Oh, no problem. But the Duster, Dacia has never had a problem with reliability. That's one thing that Dacia doesn't do, because Dacia uses old Renault technology. So the Clio or the Megane from a couple of years ago will be a Duster. The chassis underneath will be a Duster. It'll be all come straight out of that Renault parts bin. No problem with reliability. They're very proud of their brand. I swear to God. Dacia is one of those brands where when I put up a video, I get comments from Romania, because that's where they're built. But it's a good car, yes. Dusters. And the new one actually looks really well. Really well. I think it's a very handsome looking car. Stick to the diesel in them. I don't think the gasoline ones aren't exactly brilliant. Just the engines wise, it feels like such a big car. So I would stick with the diesel ones. But other than that, I have no problem with it. Lankubuden, don't know how to pronounce your name. Hello, Bob. How worried should it be about this Fit for 55 and incorporating road transport into the ETS emissions trading system? Will the price of petrol diesel be even more expensive? That's where we have long-term plans for governments, because governments don't make the rules anymore, lads. The governments are just the puppet masters for what's actually coming down the road, which is the way he's talking about their Fit for 55 and all that. What not only the British government but the European Union is doing right now, they're trying to tease us out of those electric cars, out of diesel cars, out of petrol cars, into electric cars, because that's what they're told is good for the environment. It's the only way forward. You can't do anymore. It's grand. It doesn't matter. That's not true. It's just not true. There's room for everybody to do everything they want to do in this time. But when it comes to policy, what they're talking about is weaning you off it. So there's 2 ways of doing it. One is outright bans. That doesn't tend to work very well. Also will come under massive criticism. if you're to just say we're not selling any more petrol diesel for anybody. That would be crazy because most people can't afford to change electric anyway. So what they do is they leave the excise duties and the prices till it goes up, till it becomes more and more unaffordable for you to go anywhere other than just work. Then after a while, they start to consider only going to work 2 days a week, working from home from the retreat. Some people can't do that. The people who can't will look for alternative transport, be it public transport, trains or buses or whatever way you can. But that's, again, doesn't suit everybody. But I think the hope is that by that time, we will be in a position where everything is just going to be electric. And that's exactly what they're after. And I don't think that's going to work. We'll see, though. We'll see over time. Because we only know about these things over time when they're actually instigated. It may come to nothing in the end. Garrett Talbot's given a bit of advice there on a Mark 7 1.6 diesel VW Golf, average 69 mpg and 40 miles single trip. Great. It is. They're brilliant. They're great cars. These will be around for at least another 30 years. Hope so, Sean. I may not be, but it'd be nice if it was. Because I hate the thoughts of putting all our eggs in one basket. We did this before. We've been through this before. So at the beginning of personal use cars, we started with electric. But the First World War knocked the electric thing on the head and became petroleum because you just couldn't replace batteries on the front lines. And the fast thing to do was to bring people to the front line on transporters, so big trucks. And that's what the First World War brought us. So there was horses in the First World War as well, and they were very good because horses like four-wheel drive. They're brilliant at getting things out into the muck and dirt. But for troop transport on roads, moving people around the place, the truck became the thing to use towards the end of the First World War. And by the end of the First World War, we had tanks. We had all kinds of things all running on either a diesel engine, common rail diesel usually, or a petrol engine. So we've only had these things since, let's go for 1917 to 1920, when cars started to become a thing. Cars started to become quite normal. Model T Ford was out and that became a very popular car. And that really pushed things on. And so we kind of lost the will for electric. But I think it can all harmonise together. And I think when 50% of the market is there at electric, I think people just stop worrying about whether it's petrol, diesel, or anything. I think people just need to worry about it's a good car. Just bought an R-Line 200 brake horsepower DSG diesel Tiguan. Will see me out. That's all you need, boy. That's actually one of the nicest looking cars on the market at the moment. R-Line Tiguans. Cost less to make diesel and petrol. Diesels are more efficient. Depends on how you measure efficiency. It certainly does cost less to build a petrol or diesel powered car than it does to build an electric car. But as efficiency goes, they're not the conversion of energy into motion. Diesels and petrols are not more efficient than electric. Electric is far more efficient. You're talking about 50% efficiency, maybe on a good, efficient diesel-powered engine, maybe 50% efficiency. The rest is gone in heat, whereas electric cars are up at 95, 96, 97, up there somewhere for efficiency, for how little heat loss there is, how much energy loss there is, that sort of stuff. You're talking about butter, which reminds me, tell me where he'll cooking gone. Cooking, yeah, well, that was lard. That is... cooking and that kind of stuff. You used to be able to buy lard. My mother used to keep lard. So she'd fry something in a frying pan. And when she was finished frying, she would put the dripping, so the oil from the frying pan, into a bowl. And it would solidify. So it would go hard. And she would use what's in that bowl to grease the pan for the next cooking. That would be generally what you'd consider to be lard. But it's definitely not healthy. Because it's full of whatever was in that meat that you were cooking, the pork chops or the rashers, the sausages, whatever, and it was all being poured into one bowl. But it was a good way of, obviously, our parents were masters of reusing things because often you couldn't buy what you're looking for. So you couldn't really get vegetable oil when I was young. My mother never drove. And so we only shopped in Kildare town. Although we had a little supermarket in the town called Cox's and another one called Southwells across the road from it, they really didn't have a lot of modern stuff. So even pasta was an unusual thing to see in the 70s and 80s. You didn't see it a whole lot. So she used to reuse everything. But of course, she got high cholesterol when she got older. So immediately that kind of practice was disappeared. But that's where cooking came in. Cooking was lard. I think it's an I or an L maybe. Hi, Bob. Hope you're having a good Sunday. I am so far, yeah. Some manufacturers are starting to do their hybrid PHEV vehicles. Do you think they're transitioning to EV fleet in the future? If you get used to using a PHEV, you'll find the conversion to a full electric a little bit easier, obviously, because you're used to plugging the thing in. You've set yourself up on the various charge point prices. You've done that stuff, all that's finished with you. So I think there is a good rationale behind it. The bad rationale behind it is that you're carrying around, if you don't charge it, you're carrying around a great big battery, like 70 to 100 kilo battery in the boot, and it's just a dead weight back there. You might as well put a human being in the back seat and just carry them around with you all the time. A big one, a fat one, like someone my size. It's sitting in the back seat for you. But when it comes to the PHEV range, like they're starting to become a little bit clever. BMW's brought out ones that can do 70, 80 kilometers or miles, 70 miles or something on full electric in the X5. I'm driving the Kia Sportage PHEV, which is able to do 70 to 80 kilometers on electric charge, because the battery technology is very efficient, but also the battery is a bit bigger than it was before. They can fit more in. So they're starting to become a little bit more clever, but I'm still, if you're going to make a PHEV work really well, just buy an electric car. Just start there if you want to start there. But certainly if you go like I do every once in a while. Yesterday we went to Waterford and into Wexford down there to Duncannon Beach. There's no charge points on there. Nothing. There's nowhere to charge a car. So there's only on the road ones on the way back up. I didn't even pass a petrol station really yesterday. Only when we got to Kilkenny did we see any good petrol stations come up. Where was I now? Let me look at that one first. There we go. Sniper patch. Or maybe they say it doesn't do the diesel engine anymore, did it not? I'm not sure. I thought he was talking about second-hand yokes. It would have been the older ones. Peter says, "Hi, Bobby. Sure you're not Scottish. I do the same as you. When I drive to Spain, I take a gas cooker in the fridge, save a fortune." Lads, these are the old-style things that need to come back, because we are moving into a point where everything is becoming... I watched a woman on TikTok this morning crying because there was a shed. Someone had built a very high-quality shed in the backyard of their house, and they're charging 700 quid a month or something for the shed. One bedroomed, got a living room and a kitchen and stuff in it. And I was looking at it thinking, that's not a bad place. For that money, that's not a bad little place. Because she hasn't lived through the 80s. Because I remember really crap places. We used to go and see places like hovels, and they were 40, 50 quid a week, which is 200 quid a month. That's about what she's going to pay for that thing. But they were damp and dirty and had nothing in them. Nothing. Not broadband, doesn't even mentioned. Television connections, not even mentioned. So like I'm not even worried about that sort of stuff. It's just crazy to think that that's the way people are these days, that they're getting so worried about things. Sylvia is giving a super chat. Thanks very much, Sylvia. Very kind. Is that Sylvia? Can I 400 times for Sylvia? Thank you very much for the super chat. You're very kind. But if you need to start getting your value from stuff, it's not just a matter of buying it because you want, you're walking out and you're just buying something because you don't have it. Okay. But if you're replacing something, you're just buying something else. Why? Why aren't you fixing what you got? What is wrong with it? Why haven't you fixed that thing or done something with it to make it last a bit longer? Because you probably don't need it. And it's not just Peter and his Scottishness, mean stuff. It's not me being mean. It's just in your brain. You got to think about how much you're spending on stuff, what you're doing with it, why you're doing that. Like we literally put one of those, I think you buy them for $5 or $9.99 or something in Lidl. You buy those gas cookers, single ring gas cooker, you put a little canister in one side of it. We put one of them into the boot of the car. You'd be surprised. You bring a kettle with you and a pot with you, and you could have beans on toast and a cup of tea from one cooker, and it costs you the price of the beans. That's it. I know it sounds crazy. It sounds old fashioned, but it's how you save money. Calanot says, will the Chinese EV market own the future market? Yeah, it nearly is already. Like it's already for mobile phones. It's almost done. Like they're just waiting for licenses and things to come right, and they have problems in their own country with manufacturing. But essentially, they will come and monster the European market over the next 5 to 10 years. They're the ones that are driving this conversation over getting rid of CO2 as well. China will be the one who is really pushing for that to happen. Outwardly, they're telling people they're a very low CO2 country. Inwardly, we're hearing different stories. Who knows? But I at the moment, I just see it's going to be a very tough landscape over the next 5 to 7 years for the likes of Volkswagen, who will be number one, selling at least four brands in Europe, along with the other brands that do, motorbikes and trucks and things. But I just don't think they're going to, in the future, I don't think they can sustain what they're doing, because when the Chinese start delivering their cars to Europe, it's going to be a bun fight because the Chinese just sell them at cost. Just get rid of them at cost. It costs them absolutely nothing to build. I won't say slave labor, but low quality wages out there as well. YouTube Forum says, what about the Lexus Hybrid? What about it? Which one? There's loads of them, you know. CT200H is horrible. The rest of them are good. The modern Lexus stuff is really good. Very good. I would be very happy in a Lexus ES300H F Sport. That thing. That is a lovely car. And it's not plug-in of any kind. It's just petrol powered with a hybrid thing connected. Very good car though. Raymond Gray says in Germany they introduced a €9 monthly public transport fee and 20 million people use the service. We dropped the price here. Lewis is free and people still aren't using the service as much as they used to because they're scared. They're scared of bad people being on board Lewis and fights breaking out and things. So they're all a bit nervous about it. It's a change of attitude. I think, and this is not going to go down well, but I think the car should be banned out of Dublin city centre entirely. Gone. It has no business being there. I think just ban it. During the workday, there should be no cars going through Dublin city centre. Open it up at 8 o'clock at night for cars you want, but in the morning, in the daytime, should all be gone. Dublin has by far and away the best connected transport system in Ireland and does not use it to any good potential at all. Still a huge chunk of people drive into Dublin every day because they can't park the car. I also think we should have a 20-storey, multi-storey car park at the Red Cow Roundabout, and I think we should have them in all park and rides. They should stop being big flat zones. They should be tall zones, not flat. It should be like Dublin Airport with the tower blocks there where you can park in. That's what we need, lads. We need to start thinking about getting people from a car to a public transport. People's biggest complaint is, I don't want to walk from home to the public transport. That would take me half an hour. But this way you could drive. Simple as that. Get rid of it. Graham Cullen says that wasn't a bowl of lard, it was a bowl of flavouring. Food is now healthier but not as tasty. This is true. This is very true. Lard and the stuff my mother would have used back then was actually quite clean and healthy because it would have been a lot less additives used in raw food back then and cleaning things and preservatives and that sort of stuff, which would have been totally different. So there would have been a lot of flavour would have come out, and she would have known what to cook to turn into lard. So you wouldn't do stuff. My wife, who has just come in with an iced coffee, is wearing a lovely outfit, but just came in with an iced coffee. Look, ooh, that's not an ad for Bailey's, by the way. It's just in a Bailey's glass. I'll turn around a little bit. So it's not an ad for Bailey's, it's coffee. Oh my God, that's good. Iced coffee is good. But yeah, my mother would have known what to save from the lard back then to actually have it. Another good show, Bob. Thanks for the life and motoring tips. No problem at all, Pat Stevens. Anytime you want. Don't worry, we're here for another 50 minutes yet. John Gerard says, hi Bob, what's happened to Limerick to Cork M20 motorway? No disrespect to Tuam, but it's hardly a major urban centre hub. Doesn't make sense why a motorway is built there first. I have no idea. The planning authority in this country seems to do the strangest things. That motorway I was on was actually really good. There was hardly anyone on it, but it was really good. It just seemed to terminate all of a sudden out of nowhere in Tuam. But I was going over for a charge up anyway. But Tuam was such a strangle point. When I was talking to the people there, it was so frustrating. You literally couldn't walk across the road or not. And just cars, just this constant noise of cars sitting in traffic all day. And that's, as the people were telling me there, that's without the schools being back or anything else happening. It's just this constant amount of traffic going up and down. And I have to thank everybody in Tuam who knew who I was with beeping horns at me as I was on the street laughing. And the ladies that went by, the wedding that went by, it was a hen party going on as well because it was a Friday. But it was a lovely time. But I'd love to see, we have no motorway south to north. So to put that in context, if I want in Portlaoise, because I have the M7 passes right through Portlaoise, not through it, around it. So I am 45 to 50 minutes from Dublin. I can get to the M50 pretty much in 50 minutes, less maybe if it's quiet. And Limerick is about an hour and 10, give or take. So that's the two directions. I can get to Cork in about 2 hours and a bit. So that's because I'm on a motorway. But if I want to go to Waterford, it's nearly 2.5 hours because there's no motorway. If I want to go to Monaghan or Donegal or Mullingar, Tullamore even, the ones that are close to me, I have to go over the bog roads. There's no motorway. I don't know why we haven't got a motorway that starts somewhere down towards the Waterford region there, or maybe the Kilkenny region, something like that, and skirts its way around the edge, matches up at the N7 here, but crosses over here on this side, so you can go east-west then, and then goes on up to the, whatever the next one up, the one to Galway, the M8 there. I don't know why they're not connected up, somewhere near Athlone. Why can't I get on a motorway and get off at Athlone and Tullamore and all those stops along the way? Seems crazy. We've nothing going north to south. Everything goes east-west. Everything. You look at Dublin map of all the motorways, M50, everything is connected to the M50 going outwards. Nothing is connected up through the country. Stupid stuff. Graham Cullen, I was born in the end of the 70s. Forget your kit. PE, invest in pants. Correct. Lead paint. Yeah. Asbestos everywhere. Yep. All rotten cabinets for classrooms. Yep. We survived. You're correct, Graham. Most of the classrooms I was in the 80s was those prefab yokes. Notice, I don't know what they made of, like plywood, crap plywood stuff. That's what they're all made from. You kind of make it through it. I think by far and away today, yeah, there's not many houses to buy or to rent at the moment, but that happened as well in the 70s and 80s. Exact same thing happened here. The thing is, we don't have a county council, so we don't have Mr. Haughey on television going, you have to tighten your belt now, and then he just built his way out. He just built council houses, just built till there was hundreds of them. So everybody got a council house really quickly. But then we seem to stop doing that. We just get rid of that. It's all private-public partnerships now. You have to have 10% has to be council houses. It doesn't make any sense these days. So things have changed a little bit, but certainly tightening your belts is something I grew up doing. Donica Lyons says, Bob, when you mentioned lard, it brought me back to my childhood. That's good. 70s and early 80s. The pound of lard was round and reinforced wax. With you today, they don't even know what a flask or lunchbox are. I'm telling you, yeah, absolutely. Like we didn't have, my mother wouldn't have used cooking oil that I can think of until she got high cholesterol. It was the first time she ever used cooking oil. Now, she had one test and it came back with high cholesterol. I've had one blood test here a few months back and had high cholesterol. And inside 3 months later, my cholesterol was below normal. You can change your cholesterol just purely by diet. I'm telling you, purely by diet. But like back then, I'm not saying lard isn't healthy. Lard is probably very healthy, actually, because I'm a firm believer that your body knows what to do with natural fats. And what I mean by that is, so like eggs cooked in olive oil is going to be perfectly healthy for you, even though they're listed as some high cholesterol. That's bull. Eggs are incredibly healthy for you. I think any sort of natural, normal fat that comes out of anything, butter particularly, or cream or any stuff, I think your body knows what to do. As long as your calorific deficit is there every day, I think your body knows what to do with it. So I think it's probably good. But lard back then would have been something that everybody knew what it was. And she had a little, I bet you've all had it too, a little earthenware bowl thing. It looked like it had loads of little cracks in it. It was actually just an earthenware yoke. And that's where she kept her lard. Her dripping, as it was called as well, drippings. Colin says, I agree that the European car industry is dying, but what's left in Europe afterwards, there's nothing else remaining. Europe is dying. The European dream, I think to some degree, is modifying, changing, dying. I think we're moving towards a sort of more of a globalist government thing that's going on in the background. Not saying whether that's good or bad, but I think that's what's kind of happening. I think we're coming to a point where the World Economic Forum and all these incredibly wealthy business type people who turn up and sit around in Davos in their private jets, fly in, give their opinion, have their little TED Talks, hop on their private jets, go home, and then try and tell us not to drive cars because we're polluting the planet. I think those people are the ones who are actually doing most of the work because most of those people are they're lobbyists. You know, most of those people work very, very hard to make sure that their business doesn't pay any tax. Realistically, if we all just paid our tax, as Mick Lynch says, if you don't know who Mick Lynch is, go look him up. Mick Lynch says tax is something that can be progressive. You know, if everybody just paid the tax that they owe, we'd have more money to spend on the infrastructure that we need, right? The problems only begin when people don't pay enough tax. And the thing is, the tax system right now is upside down. Me and you and us ordinary people, we pay all the tax. And the ones who have almost all the money pay very little, if any tax, either personal or in a business sense. They pay people to hide it, you know. And I think at this stage, all we need to do is to just make sure everyone's paying their fair share of tax. No matter how big or small your business or your home is or whatever it is, pay your tax. The idea of tax cuts, this idea that Varadkar's floating around or someone's floating around now about this 30% tax rate, it's effectively a tax cut. That's just buying some votes. The real thing we need to do is actually increase tax on people who can afford more. Like hit the energy companies, hit ESB, hit they're the people who are announcing gargantuan profits, huge profits. Nobody's talking about taxing the crap out of their profits, though, right? Do you know, in way back in America, the top rate of tax was 90%. 90%. The top rate of tax. Mad, isn't it? HVO. Explain to me what HVO is, Pat Stevens. To remind me now. Is that hydrogen? Are you talking about hydrogen stuff? Hydrogen is going to have an uphill battle to get going. That's where hydrogen is going to be. We don't have an infrastructure. We just don't have places to put hydrogen. There's no hydrogen fuel stations, and there's no place making enough hydrogen to supply it all. It sounds like a great dream, and maybe 20 years from now, maybe less than that, a bit of investment to it, I think hydrogen might have a future. I think it certainly works in buses and trains and trucks and big units, big machinery. Could certainly work. But I think ferries and massive cargo ships should be nuclear powered anyway. I mean, it's insane that they're diesel powered. That's what a waste of diesel. My friend was told she was buying the last Dacia diesel in January 2022. As they're all, that's how they'll get you out of your diesel and petrol cars, because they just stop selling them to you. That's all that's really going to happen. They've already announced, Volvo announced it. Volkswagen are now all electric, they said multiple times at this point. And that means that whole Volkswagen groups, that's Audi, that's Skoda, that's Seat, all of them are going to have to go electric to some degree in the near future. YouTube says, now cocaine was bleached white, that's right. Lard by its tradition is kind of a brown grey, depending on what's been used to make the lard in the first place. So cocaine, which was lard in a package, I'm sure I've seen cocaine on a shelf somewhere recently. You can buy it still. That was coloured white, so that they bleached it out. M9 to Waterford. Yeah, well, the M9C again goes up. It doesn't go up the country towards my direction. So what I'm talking about is but kind of you're on the right track. So what I'm talking about is, if you look straight up the country from top to bottom, there's no motorway. Like, if I'm going to Rally School Ireland, which is in Monaghan, Google offers me two solutions to it. One is N7, M50, M1, and then across Monaghan to Rally School Ireland, right? So I have to go across the country, east coast, and then go up the M50 and around the M1 by the east coast, come back in to go west again, or straight up through the country, which is Portlaoise to Tullamore, Mullingar, kind of Navan direction, and then back over to Monaghan, where you cross over the border a couple of times. They're nearly the same time, but one road is far more dangerous than the other road, and that's the little B roads. So if there was some way that we could connect up, the bottom of the N7 should go off down towards Waterford, Kilkenny direction, and then all the way back up as far as, we should be connecting up with some of the Northern Ireland roads, surely at some point. But some are up there towards Mullingar, Navan, up that way. It should be all up that direction. We should be connecting the bottom to the top. We just don't. There's no motorway between here. The two biggest towns of the Midlands by a considerable way is Portlaoise and Tullamore. And then you go over towards Athlone, which is another one. There's no connection to those three towns, are not connected up together, apart from old crap roads that are ancient now at this stage. Aaron Brady says, hi Bob, any thoughts on use GTE? They're a good car, yeah. Seems to fit my needs with charging and range and a good to drive. GTEs are fine, yeah. Now, they're a hybrid, plug-in hybrid. GTE is a plug-in hybrid, isn't it? Yeah. Plug-in hybrids. The early ones are okay. You do have to plug them in every day. And I mean every day. They will not be full, ever. So plug them in the whole time. But other than that, if they're plugged in, they're fine. The fuel economy is pretty good in them as well. Same engines as the other ones, just carrying a battery. Rob Jarvis says, hey Bob, went from Athenry to Tato Park in ID4, started journey 80%, stopped at Athlone on the way home to get a fast charge, wanted to use Ionity, back up to 80%, 38 quid. 38? Bloody hell. Rob, you're robbed, Rob. That is very expensive, and I mean very expensive. You wouldn't have spent that in a diesel. Nowhere near it. Now, I know it's Ionity, but and he may only use it, and then a lot of people go, but he's only going to charge it Ionity twice a year. But that is, you rip off. That's very expensive. 38 quid is crazy. Especially when you're in a Volkswagen, which should have a deal with Ionity. Fritex, that's the one. And get a little lift of cooking. Yeah, I remember Fritex as well, yeah. Reminiscent of the 70s and 80s. Oh, how to save money on the Sunday service, what we're doing today. Window reviews, interviews. Thomas says, hi everyone. Hi Thomas. We'll call you Thomas because that's the last bit of that. Do it fine. Thinking of buying a Nissan Leaf, says Tom Boyle, on 0% finance, 10,000 cheaper than a Kia Niro. What do you think? Or should I stay with my 2-year-old diesel car? It's only 2 years old, Tom. Why would you be jetting out with diesel that fast? Now, so you're on a 0% finance. That's good. That's a good start, right? 0% finance is a great way to start. But would I spend the money that required to get to a Nissan Leaf, which is fairly old now? Even the new Nissan Leaf is kind of old at this stage. Or would I'd stay in a diesel car for another year or 2 years even, and then I'd swap out to something secondhand or something like that. I don't think I'd spend the money to move on to an electric car. Electric cars, Nissan Leaf is kind of older technology as well now. You still have to consider there's more modern batteries, there's more modern software, more modern feeling cars even at this stage. So Nissan are a little bit behind that. Even their own area is more modern than the Leaf. So there is an element of that. I would stay with my diesel right there. Kia Niro is a great car. That is brand new technology. Literally only just came out. So there's that as well. By the way, I am setting up a stream on Twitch as well if anyone wants to join in. That's similar to this, more about comedy though. I thought Ireland was a tax haven only for massive corporations, Paul. The tax rate here is favourable enough, I suppose. It's not the highest in Europe by a long way. But if you are a massive corporation here, you can hide your wealth here very well. Yes, you pay lower corporation tax and all that sort of stuff, but our income tax here is still quite high. Everybody just needs to pay their income tax. That's it. Stop hiding it. Just pay it. Like my tax last year was enormous. it's just the way life is. Sometimes it's ups and downs. That's how things go. Morris Taylor says, watching from Alberta. Welcome to Alberta. And everyone who sails in you. You'd be great over there. Bradley O'Keefe says, hey Bob, I hope all is well with you. It is. Everyone listening to it. I recently updated my car. I had a VW ID, which is the electric cars, and bought a new Mustang Mach-E, also an electric car, with a range 91 kilowatt usable. What do you think of these Mach-Es? Mach-Es are nice, lovely thing. The battery range doesn't live up to the battery size. What do I mean by that? I mean, your ID car with a 77 kilowatt hour battery could get about 450 kilometers to 500 kilometers at a stretch now, but let's just take it to be 400. The Mach-E only gets about 450. So it's still, even though it's got a much bigger battery, it's because it's heavier. So it's a bit weird at that. But I do like the Mach-E. I think Mustang Ford did a good job at that. I don't think it should have been called a Mustang. I think that's the problem with it. I think people won't want to buy it because it's called Mustang, and Mustang would traditionally be a V8 or, the EcoBoost ones, but the Mustang V8s and stuff would have been a big one. But the car is good. Nothing wrong with that. John Gerard says, loved iced coffee. Wish I had someone to make me iced coffee. I had to make my own. Oh my God, did you, John? That's terrible. I have a wife that does that sort of things. While she's wearing a bikini. Sunning herself on a. It is very stuffy here. It's so warm. In case you're hearing a little buzz in the background, it is a little fan that's going there. That's why I'm not sweating my bits off. Very important. Rob Jarvis says, use cooking oil and an old diesel needs to be filtered out and an old Merc. Yes, you could do that. And literally, it was a question I asked on TikTok this morning, why we aren't looking at the perfectly renewable fuels. And it would require an awful lot of farmland, would be the biggest point of that. But you certainly could. A diesel only requires a combustible fuel, really. It'll run anything because diesel runs on compression. So the speed of compression causes flame. It's not a spark plug. And even a diesel heater. So if you're looking at glow plugs, all they're doing is making the fuel more liquid because diesel can freeze. Petrol doesn't. But diesel can freeze. So a diesel engine diesel fuel needs to be heated ever so slightly just before it gets in. Combustion is easier when it's slightly heated. So other than that, as long as it combusts, it should be able to run it. But modern diesels get all kinds of NOx sensors and things, all kinds of stuff inside them that make them difficult to run on anything other than the diesel you get from your fuel station, because the diesel you get from your fuel station is like 50% chemicals anyway. But yes, cooking oil, use cooking oil, all chip shop fats, oil, anything that had something that could burn, used to be able to put into diesels. Then they started taxing the crap out of it. That's what they do. The Irish government doesn't understand it, so we tax it. So does the British government, actually. They just tax everything. But British government does make it a little bit more easy to understand the taxes. We don't. If you were to ring up excise now, like customs or someone, and go, how do I pay tax on vegetable oil I'm going to use and burn in my car? I bet they wouldn't know. Cameron says, regarding Ionity, isn't this a fraud? The network is built with EU subsidies and it has to be the highest rates. Are profits going back to EU? I don't think so. No, profits right now being made by Ionity. why ever they charged what they charge. Now, just remember, all energy companies have gone up. Even Tesla have had a 15% or 20% rise in their charges on the superchargers, and they're for Tesla customers. And they've put their price up as well. Everybody's making massive money from energy at the moment, from electricity, from energy, from gas, from everything. A phenomenal amount of cash has been put out. Just need to be any cap. No reason people cap things. It's just crazy stuff that's going on right now. That's we're paying for, and they're throwing it in as if it's war in Ukraine is doing this. It's not. It's not the war in Ukraine. It is literally greed that's driving this. People can make money during war, and that's what they're doing, making money. But the Ionity prices is insane. Look, when you pull into a petrol station, what's the thing you do when you're driving by a petrol station? You look at the big price list, yeah, as you drive in, you go, wow, that's a bit expensive. I'm not buying my petrol here. You drive on, right? That's it. Easy choice to make. Up the road, see another petrol station, sign outside, bit cheaper there. I'm going to go in and do that one, right? Well, how do you do that with electric yokes? You see electric, it says E on the thing, it says your charge points in here. You pull in, and it's something you've never seen before, like an Ionity, and there's no prices up on the screen, no nothing. And you sign up and you start building yourself. Then you suddenly find out it's 38 quid, like Callano's found out. And it's like, wait, hold on a second, that's just been ripped off. Morris Taylor says driving 2022 Bolt EUV Chevy. Go away. The old Chevy Bolts. We had them over here called an Opel something. Can't think what it's called. It was an Opel anyway, because I drove it. Never came in because it's way too expensive. Pat Stevens, you're a very kind person to put in a super chat. Very kind of you indeed. Hydrogenated vegetable oil. I see it being proposed as diesel alternative with the wax problems in pure veg oil a few years ago. Correct. There's so much. Vegetable oil is not just vegetable oil. There's other stuff that happens. The chemical makeup to burn the flammable point or something they call it. How quick it goes up in flames. So you know when you put vegetable oil in your frying pan, you get black smoke from it because it's reached its burning point. It's reached the point where it's starting to ignite. Whereas olive oil can go a little bit higher, and there's all kinds of different ones. Rapeseed oil, I think, is the highest flame point or something on it. So there's rapeseed oil to be a good alternative to diesel. But the taxes, boys, it's the ones that are going to make money that need to be worried about. The Arab population will not be happy with us trying to figure out a way to make fuel without going through them first. But thank you, Pat, for the super chat. You're very kind. I don't know what that's an EV. I don't know what that's related to. Raymond Gray says, you're bringing me back, Bob. Remember the Curly Whirly bar and the Trigger bar? Curly Whirly still exists. I had one a while ago. Don't remember Trigger bar. I remember Boost, which we still have. There was another one called a Picnic bar, which was out there too. There was Golly bars. Remember them? I'm going back a bit far now. There was lots of stuff. Bob, the McDonald's lorry is already running some sort of biodiesel mix, so it can be done. It can be done. It has been done for years. Fifth Gear, years ago, converted an old Mercedes to run entirely on vegetable oil, chip fat oil. So essentially go to your chip shop, get their spare vegetable oil, get it back out again, and get to sieve it out, like sieve out all the lumps of chips and fat and things out of it, sieve it again and put it into a car and burn it as you would normally. Because all a diesel car, a diesel engine needs to do is combust, is to be able to push the piston up so fast that it combusts in the chamber. The thing about diesel as well is it's an incredibly predictable combustion chamber. So when it combusts, it's actually quite efficient when it does it. Whereas a petrol is uncontrolled combustion, is what it's called. So essentially, the piston is coming up, it's coming up, and it's coming up, and it depends on when the spark is going to happen. And the piston is closing down. You're venting in some petrol into the chamber. The piston is coming all the way up, and then the spark plug goes off. But if the spark plug's not going off at the right time, it's uncontrolled combustion. So it's very hard to see where that combustion is going to go inside the chamber to push it down. So it doesn't make it very efficient. A lot of stuff is lost in heat. Whereas diesel is very combustible because you know exactly when that combustion is going to happen because there's no spark plug involved. It's just going up and you know exactly when it's going to happen and you know when it's going to go back down. That's why diesel is more efficient. That's why Rudolf Diesel was a bloody mastermind when he invented that thing. But yes, the McDonald's trucks have it all proposed on the side of their vehicles, said it's running on biodiesel from their own chip fat. That would make them more profitable when you think about it because they've got a reason to use their chip fat into something else. So why has McDonald's put the price of the Big Mac up? Just saying, transfer of wealth. Don't be eating McDonald's. It's bad for you. It's bad for you. I like a McDonald's every once in a while, but it's not even food. Used to run a very old straight diesel Fiesta on used cooking oil, 2-tank system, heat exchangers, etc. Collected oil from Chinese chip shop. No good as they use fat, no tax, North biodiesels. It's totally doable. It has to be doable, lads. I mean, being able to make fuel, your own fuel, would be a phenomenal thing. Now, I'd imagine they'd tax the crap out of you down here. I think there is a tax here in this country. You would have to declare to, maybe it's customs, maybe it's excise duties or something. I don't know. I'm sure there's some duty to pay on it. Because if there wasn't, we'd all be doing it. You can also run, there's other fuels, LPGs out there as well. You can run on some sort of gas, but that's getting up in price too. Everything's starting to rise in price. And while I suppose we don't do much mileage in our car here, and we are already, the two of us, myself and the wife downstairs, going, you could walk to work. Like, you don't have to drive every day if you want to save money, because we live in a town. But the vast majority of people who surround me live in the country. They're much further out. They can't afford to get rid of the car all of a sudden. Patrick Ross says, black smoke cooking oil, reeky frying pan. Correct. That's how your reek is made as well. That's how your reek map happens. But you can, we do have frying pans here that do smoke a little bit every once in a while. We put them up too high. Luke's dad says, red diesel from the north, green diesel from the south. Correct. Don't know why they had two different colours on them. Because it's only food colouring. That's what's in the diesel to make it a different colour for agricultural diesel. So commercial diesel would be down this way, is called green diesel down here. So that would be for tractors, for, what's going on right now? You drive down the road and you see a combine harvester pass you by, like we're in Wexford yesterday, combating with combine harvesters everywhere. They all run on green diesel. But it's the same diesel. They call it agricultural diesel, but it's the same diesel as you put in the road car. There are some small modifications to it. Essentially, it's slightly cleaner in road cars, but realistically, it's still just green diesel with some food colouring in it. And so they people are putting that into their cars, which is illegal because they're not paying the same rate of tax. It's just a tax thing. But it's red diesel up the north. I don't know why that is. Our red diesel on here is road diesel. If they invented diesel today, I think they'd stop it going on the market. I don't need to do any research on it. See, the problem is, the only reason that diesel is dirty, it's lower CO2 than petrol, straight off. So it's less CO2 than petrol, but it has a high NOx point. So other chemicals that are used in diesel, that are emitted from the exhaust pipe, is NOx. And NOx is a cancerous product. It's a heavy thing. It falls out of the back of the car onto the ground behind the car. But because in traffic, when you're driving through it, you stir up this NOx, it rises up very fast and goes into people's lungs, causing throat cancer, mouth cancer, lung cancer, all kinds of cancers. So, but that's because of the amount of diesels on the road. And the amount of diesels on the road is directly related to the Green Party cutting the rate of VAT on diesels and making them more attractive for people to buy. So business owners can claim the VAT back on diesel-powered cars here in this country, but can't claim the VAT back on petrol-powered cars or on electricity. You can claim the VAT back on electricity used by your business, but you can't claim it back on the car itself yet. See, there's all kinds of stupid stuff that we're all doing, not even thinking about, and it's not even considered by the Green Party. As the technological deflation will have a huge impact on the future for price of EV batteries, do you think the longer life for the EV ICE versus ICE car, swapping all battery with a new one? Swapping batteries, that's still really expensive. Battery and battery technology is very, very expensive. Now, don't make a mistake, an engine for a car is very expensive. You have to swap out the engine in a car every 200,000 kilometers. The car would not be worth it. Like, there's no way you're going to find an engine that's going to fit that. But an engine today is maybe €500 to €1,000 to replace your engine. But battery yokes is 15-16 grand. Like, it's really expensive. So I don't know whether we can get to that point. It might take 10 or 15 years, maybe even longer, to get to that point, because we're going to have to mine so much more out of the ground to do these replacement batteries, to buy new batteries for our old cars. And will you want to still be driving a Nissan Leaf in 2035 when batteries are no good anymore? Do you really? Are you still going to be driving? You're just going to buy a new car. So we're on a dead end there, I think, in that one. But I don't know. Solid state batteries might change how things are. Maybe in the future we'll get better batteries out there. But solid state might be the way to go. John Gerard says, is it worthwhile buying a used motorhome from the UK post-Brexit, or would it be better off going to mainland Europe? Mainland, it doesn't matter, but So wherever you get the best value. So if you're in Ireland, I would go to mainland Europe to buy a camper van because you don't have to pay the tax, the import tax on it. Because once you pay tax in the country within Europe, you don't pay tax in another European country. So if you buy your car in France, you bring it into Ireland, and you VRT it for your license plate, you still have to pay the VRT, but you don't have to pay any import duties or any other further VAT or tax or anything. It's done. It's done already. And because you don't care, in a camper van, you don't care if it's left or right hand drive. It doesn't really matter so much in a camper van because, you get used to it. You're not going to drive it very far anyway. Like it's not going to be doing 500 kilometers a week or something. You're just going to do 3 weeks of the year, Or maybe you go every weekend. I'd go to Europe to buy one though. But there's more on sale in the UK. If you want to avoid cancer, drive a petrol and be poor. Or is there cancer in petrol too? There's cancer in petrol too. Anything that burns emits CO2 and emits all kinds of gases. There's more than just NOx. That's the one they're all pointing at. But realistically, it's just basically the same stuff that's coming out, but just a hell of a lot less NOx out of. The NOx is being produced by the coking inside the engine. So as it's combusted and explodes, NOx is created that way because of force. Whereas the fuel that's ignited inside the engine doesn't create somewhat. To some degree, the fuel themselves are actually the problem here as well, not just the cars. Mix the two together, looks like normal diesel, still illegal though. Correct. If you mix Northern Ireland red diesel with Southern Ireland green diesel together, it looks like normal diesel. I've also seen loads of stories of lads pouring a green diesel through it like a t-shirt, and it just takes the colour out. Through a white t-shirt, it takes the green dye out. It's a dye, like it's a food colouring. That's all it is. It's very, like, it's a pretty basic system. It's kind of stupid though. Like if you wanted to cure the problem, as I see customers going dipping for diesel, dipping for this, doing out in the thing, doing it. If you actually wanted to cure the problem, what you do is not have a green agricultural diesel. It's so simple, really. You just wouldn't have it. You just pay tax on it. And just let it alone. Like, why do we have it at all? Why don't we just stabilize the rate of tax between the two kinds of diesels, make them the same, and be done with it? We don't need a secondary one where it's so much cheaper. Red diesel is UK agricultural commercial from outside Edinburgh. Lots of farmers near me used to claim their Mondeo was farm diesel. The same here. We've had that exact same thing here in Ireland for years. Loads and loads of farmers out there driving their normal road cars. That's why they all buy Land Cruisers and stuff as well. It's not just for working on the farm. It's because they can put their green diesel and red diesel in it. Probably you're right. Nobody is swapping their batteries for mobile phones either. They buy new ones. That's the problem. See, this is my biggest issue with the EV changeover thing. So people say it's going to be easy. It is. It's just swapping your car out, right? But if you're going to hold on to a car for 10 years, and in my case, my own car, 15, 16 years old, right? It's still my car. I still work, still going fine, still drives fine. Now, what if my electric car is 15 years old and the battery's not working on it? It's not holding a charge. It's not able to charge, not able to get 10% charge on it. That battery gets recycled. But somebody had to make me a brand new battery for my 15-year-old car. That's like putting a brand new engine in the battery, because there's no other way I can replace the battery. That's been made for me. So to make a brand new battery for an old car, who's going to do that? What's really going to happen is that car will be scrapped and I'll just buy another car. So we're getting in a position where we're just going to renew our car every few years, all the time, brand new car. We're already at it. We're already doing this. It's fiercely harming the environment. Our need for new things all the time is harming the environment every day. And any good boat captain will tell you that, who's on those big ferries bringing over tons and tons and tons of stuff from China. You want it now. You're not willing to wait. You want the stuff delivered today. And they are burning bazillion gallons of diesels to get it there on time. Not their fault, your fault. My fault, our fault as a human race. We've lost our connection to the rest of the planet. We've lost our connection to what we are investing in. We think that technology will solve everything. It won't. Our emissions have continued to go up with more and more technology on planet Earth. The emissions of our fathers and grandfathers who lived through a time where there was no filters in these cars and they were spewing crap out on the road, our emissions haven't fallen. They've gotten worse, not better. So technology is not fixing it. If we keep making new things, we're going to mess ourselves up even more. Anyway, We have moved into electric car, currently trickle charging off by solar panels or charge off peak at night, half the cost like your review on Skoda. Good car, poor slow chargers. Correct. If you're, make no mistake, if you had enough money, as maybe Adrian does, right, to be able to put in solar panels and be able to put in a converter to run the house and you know, things to get all that investment of cash, as well as buy a brand new car, you could make a lot of money, or not, maybe not make a lot of money, but you at least save some money on charging at home and getting your stuff done. But the investment level to go from an older house, 20-year-old house with no solar panels, no connection to the outside world, to a thing that's able to take solar panels and convert it and make it run into the car and trickle charge this, that, and the other, that is quite a step. It's quite a lot of money to get someone up there. So it's quite difficult to make someone move from one to the other like that. But it don't. You're dead right. It can be possible. Rob Jarvis says, I think there's a place in France that turns small ICE cars into EV to charge 5 to 6K. Depending on the battery, Rob. Yes, the battery is the big expensive part. It could cost you 20 grand depending on the car. I'd love to change my, if I was going to do it last year. I wanted to change my Leon over the lockdown. I want to change my Leon into an electric car. Went as far as I could go with the whole thing, but could not find a battery that would fit. Technically, I could do the work myself. It's only removing the engine and the exhaust system out of it essentially and connecting up, putting a place in for batteries, which is a tray that you can get that fits in the bottom. It makes them quite short range, but it would have worked very well for us because we're a home charger here as well. You basically put the charge port into the front of the car. You can replace the petrol cap with it as well at the back. All kinds of ways of doing it. It's totally possible. We could not get a battery. There was no batteries to be bought anywhere that was even useful for me. They cost so much money as well. Patrick was, could EV manufacturers do what they did in a slow, do to slow the batteries down and buy a newer model? Yeah, you can. The days of connected cars are here. So the idea that your car, somehow you get into it and it's old school, like my Leon is connected to nothing, like nothing. It doesn't even have a touchscreen. It has nothing in it, right? So when you get in and drive off, no one knows where you are in that car, or what you're doing, or what speed you're at. Nothing. You can download nothing from that car. There is a port, an ECU port. All it does is just throw up the errors on it. It does nothing else. Now, modern cars, literally, like all the Teslas, all the stuff, they send everything the car does back to Tesla HQ. So that's not just Tesla. All of them do it. They all do it one way or another. But Tesla actually send back your dash cam footage. So that, you know, the Sentry system, the cameras on, that's all sent back to the Tesla headquarters as well. So the car manufacturers could, in essence, do a software update that would make your battery perform worse if they wanted to. Like Apple did. Remember Apple did it? They throttled all your phones to get you to change all your phones. Then they got fined. Then they did it again. Then they got fined a second time, so they didn't do it anymore. Or at least they're not getting caught doing it this time. They got caught doing it the first time though. There'll be no more young timers. Young timers? Don't know what that means. Bob, my cousin, says that putting a few euro, but only a few euro litres in diesel engine will clean all the engine out. She said a mechanic told her this. Is this true? Am I sceptical? Bob, my cousin says that putting a few euro litres in a diesel engine will clean the engine out. If you're talking about putting diesel in a petrol engine or putting petrol in a diesel engine, I wouldn't. No. You can get additives for diesel and petrol engines that are clean and you can put them in all right. But I wouldn't go putting like a litre of diesel into a petrol engine. No. I'd leave that alone. They're very sensitive. Some of these modern engines are really hypersensitive to things. UDAX says all EV batteries will be recycled batteries from crashed and scrapped EVs. I get that. There's not many of them out there at the moment. But I understand what you're talking about. I understand that those old EV batteries will go off to be recycled. But it means that a new EV battery has to be made every single time you want to change them out. So if you have a car, if you bought today a Kia EV6 and in 15 years' time, you have to change that battery out, a new battery has to be made for you. Will you be willing to keep the car at that point and pay for the new battery, or will you just trade the car in and it'll be gone, scrapped, and then we get a new car? That's what I mean. Regarding changing cars every few years, maybe it's exactly what they want. The guys in Davos, how can this hoarding be helping the environment? We're already doing it. PCP has already kind of driven that stick where people change their car every 3 years. That is happening out there already. No matter what fuels the car, they're doing that already. So I think it'll continue. I just think it'll get. I think people want to be environmentally conscious and they want to hold on to their electric car for as long as they can, but I just don't know if they're going to hold on to it for 10 years or more. Like the first Nissan Leaf doesn't even have a touchscreen around it. It's very old fashioned now. They were the ones around the longest, of course. Rarely does a faulty battery pack completely fail, or usually a number of false cells which can be replaced. Yeah, there is a certain amount of cells that can be replaced out of them, but those cells are actually sometimes very hard to find. I literally talked to the engineer who builds and designs all of the battery technology for Hyundai and Kia. He was in Sweden with us at the launch of the EV6 GT, and we're talking to him about what makes up the battery packs, the battery cells, the actual battery, the whole battery as well. So it's made up of you get 12 battery, they're called pouch cells. 12 pouches put in a pack. That is a battery pack. So 12 of those go in there. You can replace that pack, but there's 32 of those packs in every battery, depending on the size of the battery. You can have more than that, a little bit less than that. But you can replace some of that, but it's never been done. So just so everyone's very aware, this has been the promise of all promises since the dawn of electric cars. They've told you that you can replace little battery packs inside the cells and that would make them work again. But still, so far, no one's done this. I still cannot find a single report online where any car company has taken in a battery, taken the battery out, replaced 2 or 3 cells and put the battery back up to 100% and it goes on. It's never happened. Google it for me. Give me a link. Anyone, I challenge you at any point to go and find that because it just doesn't happen. So the idea of replacing faulty cells seems like dreamland at the moment. Pat Stevens, what do you think of driving on the right-hand side to break our link to the UK market? I love that. Can you imagine if we could just go over to Germany and buy a car straight up? Didn't have to worry about it being left or right-hand drive. Just come over here. It's the right side. We're driving the wrong side of the road. We've been driving the wrong side of the road since England owned us. We have. We should break that. It should be gone. It should be gone. We should all be driving on the same side of the road as everywhere else in Europe. We're the only one left in Europe now that drives on that side of the road. Japan does as well. That's the other part. Australia, New Zealand. So they're the other ones that are driving. They're all part, not Japan, but they're all English countries. You know, I know they're still part of the Commonwealth, as they call it. We need to get rid of that for sure. We need to be driving the other side of the road. It would only be 2 weeks of danger. It'd be fine. Never get used to it. Raymond Grace, is it Honda or Mazda that used a compression like diesel to push a spark to burn petrol in an ICE engine? I think that was Honda. No, maybe that was a rotary engine thinking of from Mazda, which is the Wankel engine. That's not. That wasn't compression though. That's a rotary section. I don't remember that part. Could have been. It sounds like a Mazda thing. If it does sound like something that Mazda would do or try at some point or another. But then Honda's been doing weird stuff for years. We need to be training more EV techs to see them in independent garages, not just dealers. Correct. We have next to nobody trained. I don't think Renault still has a technician in the country to help battery problems. I think they're still flying in a guy from England to get things fixed. Nothing wrong with that either. That works, it works. But it'd be nice to have people in the country that we could actually talk to. I could talk to who are on the same technical level as the people I'm talking to in Europe. Because when you go to events and you talk to the guy, like there's a guy called David, I can't remember his last name. He's the chief engineer for Kia and Hyundai. He puts on a Kia t-shirt and he talks about Kias. He puts on a Hyundai t-shirt about Hyundai. He's a lovely guy. One of the most information I ever got in my entire life from man in one sitting, I got from him in 20 minutes. Fascinating chap. I'd love to go back over and actually sit down and interview him for a while. But fascinating his thoughts on how we're going, how BEVs are working and what's really ahead and how efficient they are compared to things. There's all kinds of stuff that can be done. A lot of it's dreamland. A lot of it's stuff way in the distance that we're not going to get there just yet. And other stuff is more modern things we can do right now. Changing out the battery cell things is a dreamland so far. How do you rate the new Leon versus your old Leon? I used the same Leon Estate 2017. I liked more than VW Golf than I had previously. Leon's a kind of a weird car now. It's become a kind of a strange. Seat has become a strange company even because they've kind of gone more Cupra than Seat now, and it's all kind of gone a bit funny. I still can't figure out where they're going. They still make good cars, but the Leon is very much on the back foot now. I definitely have a Golf at the moment. A Golf GTI Club Sport's a gorgeous car to drive. The Golf 8's not a bad car either, but I think the Leon is going to die a death now over the next while as Cupra is now pushing things like Fermentor and that other one, the electric one that they have as well. The kind of name was a good looking car, Cupra Born, Dior, which is a good looking car. They seem to be pushing those cars rather than anything to do with Leons anymore. I'd be looking at my feet now if I was a Seat dealer at the moment. Just would. Wonder what they're going to do next. Kay Hewitt, who would more likely be an advocate for EV, Stevie Wonder, Pingu, or Paul Gascoigne? That's a tricky question. In old diesels, you could just put a few litres of petrol and clean out the engine, not modern diesels. There you go. Rob says In the older diesels, you can do it, put in some petrol, but not the modern. See, modern diesel engines are very tight ship. It doesn't like, even a little bit of dirt coming in from your fuel these days can bog up these cars. About converting ICE to BEV, what about homologations, brake suspension, insurance? Love the show. The only difference, David, is the weight distribution of the car. Realistically, you'd still have to get an engineer's report, so you're still doing structural changes to the car. Like if you want to change out the suspension on your car, not doing anything else, just suspension, you're supposed to get an engineer's report and go through the NCT, that the car has to be NCT'd again. So same applies to changing over to a battery car from your petrol car. Once it's done properly and certified by an engineer, the work doesn't have to be carried out by an engineer. You could carry out the work, but you would have to bring the car on a trailer to an engineer, or they come to you and they would test the car to make sure it's good and it works fine and you've done nothing else. So when it comes to the brakes and suspension, they're still the same as they were in an ordinary car. So if you're converting an older car, you might have to adjust the suspension or whatever, because it depends how big the battery is you're putting in. But I was talking about putting in a 35 kilowatt hour battery into my car, which is essentially Nissan Leaf Gen 1, first ones, or they're 28. Smaller batteries for short range. It's all I was really ever thinking about, was putting it into the Leon. And I'd seen another place where a guy had done it on a Golf, and I'd seen a couple of videos. I just couldn't find a battery to do it. And then the conversion kit was another. You had to get this kit. There's things to make them hang, and there's spaces to put it in. It has to be a particular shape to fit into the old space. Then what do you do with the engine when you take it out? Where does that go? It's a 1.6 litre petrol. What am I going to do with that? So there's other stuff, but it's only an engineer's report out that. You can literally do whatever you want to a car as long as you get an engineer's report on it. Michael Haggerty says, "Hey Bob, I want to buy an Octavia RS yesterday. Dealer told me they are unsure of delivery for the new year, which I get, but he also said he must prioritise those renewing PCP. Have you heard of this?" Yes. So PCP is personal contract plan. The idea behind a PCP is you buy a car today, you put a deposit down, you pay for 3 years, you pay that car, and after 3 years you pay the balance, or you hand the car back, or you trade the car in. Either way, there is a guaranteed minimum future value of that car. So bear with me on the minimum future value. Now, suppose you're coming to the end of your PCP contract, okay? You're coming up to your 3rd year, and you're thinking, I'm going to buy a new car. So you ring your dealer and you go, I want to buy a new car. Thanks. Give us a look at that car there. Lovely jubbly. He says there's a 6-month waiting list on that. But your PCP ends in 4 months. Now, your car is going to go down for those extra 2 months as well. So your value of your car is falling while you're waiting for your other car to be delivered. So the guaranteed, remember that word, minimum future value, they have to give you the car at the value they said they were going to give it to you. So that's where they're starting to prioritize PCP customers, ones that are coming back in after 3 years to buy their next new little car. We're going to be such good little citizens to buy a new car after 3 years. Those ones are the ones that don't want waiting, because their cars can't be brought in for trade-ins and sell on and all that stuff. And so there's where the big issue is now in the future, because there is a lot of PCPs out there. When I say a lot, I'm talking about like enough to break all of the banks in the country on PCP tomorrow if people stop paying them. And so there's a big problem in the future with PCP. If you just want to buy a car as well at the moment, you're kind of stuck in that queue behind all the PCP people. Terrible is the supply and demand crap. You just can't buy what you want. Just give me the car. Give me what's in stock. Bob, Opel Insignia, when I press my clutch down in neutral, get a rattling sound when the pedal is partially pressed. That's your clutch. Goes away when I press the clutch fully down. Should I worry? It's going. Your clutch is on the way out. Could be a gearbox. Now you're getting a rattling sound when the pedal is partially pressed. So you get 2 plates. Essentially, one plate is spinning, one plate is not spinning, and you press the clutch and those 2 plates become boom, and the whole lot starts spinning together. When you do it halfway down, 2 plates are not kind of gathering together. Depending on where the rattle is coming from, your clutch should be going. Realistically, Brian, your clutch should either be in or out. It should never be half up. It should never be engaged halfway up. Your clutch should be all the way out or all the way in. You should never have your foot sitting on the clutch at any time, because you're making 2 pieces of metal rub together when you do it halfway up. But a rattle or a really grindy sound or any sort of stuff when you're trying to select a gear means your clutch is on the way out. Could be, it's common enough in Opel Insignias for clutches to go and gearboxes to go. Worth checking out before it goes. Bob, you forgot about Cyprus. They drive in the right as well. Yes, Cyprus, another place, yeah. And the Channel Islands driving, or I forget. I was over there once, but I forget where they drive now. Say it were, in my opinion, a Spanish Alfa Romeo, but the Cooper came out and it really seems to be going for that moniker. It was trying to, yeah. Cooper was, say it was making fun cars when Volkswagen was making very stable cars. Say it was making something different. And then they went after Cooper, and Cooper really became a good name for them. But then lockdown happened, and a whole COVID-19 virus thing came out, and that kind of changed their relationship to everything, because they kind of launched it at the beginning. Like the last press conference I was at before lockdowns began was actually a Cooper press conference in Barcelona. We were all in a room, and it was on the news, some virus in China thing, something was going on, something else. Then it was breaking, and Italy was closing its borders, and then we were on a launch in Spain, and it was a Cooper launch, and they were really talking about launching Cooper full, go, here's our brand, here's our stuff. And then it was all over. Then it was nothing but COVID. That's all. There was no such thing as news after that. If it wasn't for NI, you'd be driving on the right side of the road now. Interesting to see how different Ireland would be if there was no partition. I think it's not only possible for us to change size of the road very quickly. I think it can be done. I think a good information package to go with it. You set a date, you remind everybody, plenty of news and newspaper ads, the whole show. And I know this sounds like pie in the sky, but realistically, we are the only country left in Europe that drives on that side of the road and has cars faced that way around, which is why we have such terrible supply issues with cars here. Because the only thing we can do is row in with the British when they want to build cars in Germany. The Germans go, right, we're going to build 10,000 cars for England, right? And we'll tag on 500 cars into that for Ireland as well, because they're on the same side of the road. That's what really happens. We get a production slot and we go for the production slot. If we were driving the other side of the road, we could just go to Germany and buy a car, or we could order our car from our dealership here, but deliver directly from Germany, because we'd be in their supply chain. Part of that would be at their spec, their levels, their everything. We can get rid of VRT. We could stabilize the economy if we all paid our taxes realistically and homogenized everything to do with stuff that we do in Europe instead of having our own crap. Will the Fiat Punto ever return? Don't think so. Fiat are struggling enough. They've got some great cars. I love the Fiat 100 electric thing. It's an absolutely phenomenal yoke. But their ham-fisted approach with Fiat and Jeep and all these other brands are kind of mixed in with these lower grade brands. They're just getting rid of stuff. So they'd be lucky to hold on to the Panda or any of that sort of stuff after what's going on right now, because they need to fit batteries in cars. My son is a plug-in hybrid Leon, great car, but the software, it has more bugs than a jungle. Absolutely, 100%. I've had 2 cars where the software has broken to the point that I've had to get out, turn off the car, get out, lock the doors, unlock the doors, get in, start the car, and the software is okay again. And both of those was Seat and Cupra. They were the only 2 that had 2 completely broken systems in them. And it's weird to see that's corrected by now, but I haven't driven a Cupra in a while now. So maybe it's corrected in different software versions. But I never had any crashes in any of the Volkswagen software or Audi software or Skoda software, just in Seat and Cupra. So I think they just made it overcomplicated. You're trapped in the Amazon rainforest. What to do next? Don't know. Make a bed. Very smart. Yeah. Seat really do still have that Mediterranean spirit. Do you agree, or do you think it's been diluted over the years? Diluted because of budget cuts. Volkswagen come down just before a car's launch and say, no, you can't do that with suspension. You can't do that. It can't be better than a Volkswagen. But they've always been there. Hi, Bob. I think new Megane E-Tech. Not sure about the look of it. It looks a bit weird, isn't it? I'm going to be trying it at some point when eventually Renault get around to giving this one over here when I get one. September, they were talking about bringing them in here. Haven't seen a whole lot more about it after that. It just seems to be there in the background. It'll be good to see another electric car in the market. I'm just not sure whether we're going to get anything useful from it. I know that sounds a bit weird, but Renault's been a little bit strange over the years about what they launch and how they launch and whether they launch, what price they launch at and stuff. It'd be nice to see something entirely different from them. And this Megane E-Tech might be just that, might be just something entirely different. Eric Kosh said, great show again. Thank you very much. We have come up to the end of the show. You are more than welcome to hang around, as always. It was an absolutely phenomenal service, actually. It flew through. If you want to support the channel financially, you want more of those adventure things like that pole-to-pole one, let me know in the comments. Don't forget on PayPal, Patreon especially as well. And just straight up, you can put it here in Super Chat, or you can just click on the subscribe button, which gives money to the channel as well in its own way, because it makes more subscribers, means that YouTube give me more ads and more things to play. And I know there's a lot more people in there as well who are paying for YouTube on a monthly basis as well. You can do that too, which is good. I'd like to see more of that happening every week. I'll be back next Sunday with another Sunday service again. Be back into sort of full-time Sunday things. I think it's next Sunday. One of the Sundays I'm flying out to go and see the ID Buzz. But I'm flying out on Sunday, so I don't think I'll be doing a Sunday service that week. I don't think it's next week. I think it's the week after. But I'll try and do it every single week as I can up until the Christmas period, because we're coming into the autumn season now. So we have to do more content. But it's lovely to have you along again. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, but also the list of links down below, or any way you can to support channel is always good. Thank you very much for watching. And until the next time, I'll see you on the far side.